Well, hello everyone. Welcome into the Six Screens tonight. We have got some great programming coming up, so by all means, stay with us. I know you're really going to enjoy tonight's programming. Right off the bat here, we got Dick and Constance Boghi program. Dick will not be on with us tonight, but we do have Constance and we have Dan and Angela Clark, and we're all looking so forward to tonight's program. So let me bring Angela and Dan Clark on along with Constance and bring them on right now and say hello to them. Give us a second to do that. All right, there we go. Hello, Dan and Angela and Constance.
Hi, guys.
Hi there.
So there you are. So anyways, give us a little idea of what you're going to be talking about tonight.
You know, Rick, what I wanted to talk about, and we all discussed the other night, was, how do we build our lives back? I know you talk a lot about it on the show, but, you just can't walk away from Watchtower. You just can't walk away from the cult. Our whole inner world has to be rebuilt. And it's a process. And I know we've touched on different levels, and there's all kinds of traps. We have to get over the emotional part of it, that it was cognitive dissonant, where what we once believed, we don't believe anymore. Abandonment issues. We have a shitload of stuff to get over. And then after that, we have to deal with the repercussions of, which way do we go? Some of us want to bury it in alcohol, and we do all these different things. We stuff it down and we never really get well. So I think what I want to talk about tonight, it's going to be strange. Can I talk about strange stuff tonight, Rick?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, it's always strange, Dan.
Yeah. We came out of a, what do they call it? What's that kind of book? Fiction, mass fiction and horror. And so, we just want to talk about it tonight, Rick. I have a few questions at the end. Here's what I need tonight, and we need tonight. Honestly, we need your most smartest people to come on here. We need the most intelligent people, because I got some questions that are going to be so deep that I need help with. We need help with. We were discussing it. And the question is this. We all are a sack of belief systems, right? We came into the world, we didn't know who we are, and then when we were told we're a Jehovah's Witness, we were told how to think, we were told in school what to believe, we were taught by our teachers, and then when that didn't serve us, our whole inner infrastructure dissolved, collapsed. Who are we now? So here's the question for the brainiacs out there, the people that are the super intelligent. Who were you and who was I before I was somebody, which is a pile of belief systems that ended up not being true? And here's the thing, Rick. If you ask anybody today what truth is, what will they tell you? They'll tell you their version of the truth. And if you hook them up to a lie detector, I would prove true. If you ask me if Jehovah's Witnesses was the truth, you put my fingers on the wires and I quoted the scriptures, what I would say would resonate as absolute truth. What a Christian would would be absolute truth. What a Buddhist would resonate with would be absolute truth. So here's my question for the brains out there. What is truth? Who were you before you became filled with truth, which is your belief systems that you live from? Because as XJWs, our belief systems collapsed. What we knew as absolute truth and what served us doesn't serve us anymore. So who am I now? Who was I before truth? Who was I after my truth collapsed? And is that what Jesus was saying? Unless you become as children, because I think of children as not being know-it-alls. Children don't have this absolute truth. They love, and that's another question I want to ask the brains out there. What is greater than truth? What is greater than truth? I was absolute truth when I was a Jehovah's Witness. The next person is absolute truth. The Scientologist is absolute truth. The Mormon is absolute truth. So I want to ask the brains out there, Rick. I want to ask the people out there, the philosophers, whatever you want to call them, the thinkers. Who were you before you became filled with truth? Who are you after truth collapse? What is greater than truth? And we got to talk about it, Rick, because I believe this. If we can get back to who we are before we were filled with so much knowingness and self-righteousness, and we're different, because you think about it, in religion, we learned that they're them, and we're us, instead of we're them. It's like, I think there's a secret to building this life, this amazing life, this incredible life, but we have to return to the child's mind, which is before the brainwashing. Jesus said, unless you become as a child, you'll by no means enter the kingdom. And the kingdom of God is within, and the kingdom of God is at hand. And so if we're going to build that thing of dreams, that field of dreams, that life of meaning and excellence, I want to ask some of these people out there, where did you go when you left the truth? Where did you end up? What is your truth now? Who are you now? What's your new truth? Is truth that important to you anymore? Does it have to be important to us anymore? Do I have to know the truth? You know what truth's done for me my whole life?
This is just the intro.
Oh, sorry, Rick. Connie said it was just the intro.
This is just the intro.
But truth has just made me want to fight everybody. It seems like when I gather my little ideas and my little positionalities and my little infrastructures, it's like, then the next guy comes up and says, well, what do you believe? And, he draws his sword and I draw my sword, and we fight over these belief systems, and it gets us nowhere, because I did that for 40 years. And where did I end up?
Right.
Well, Dan, I have to tell you, we get a lot of people that want to talk to you tonight, all three of you. Now, I'll tell you, the 6 screens, if you look it up on AI, we have you're saying have the smart ones call in. The 6 screens, by the way, according to AI, has very smart listeners. And it's very interesting what they had to say about the listeners of the 6 screens. They say the listeners are part of a community actively engaged in discussing and analyzing complex, sensitive topics related to religion and personal freedom. So AI is saying that we tackled some pretty big problems here, and they're saying that the 6 screens listeners are pretty much of analyzing people, smart people. So you got a good audience tonight, Dan. So I'm going to bow out of here and let you guys roll.
That's a good point, Rick, because the truth of it is, who really knows what we went through? Nobody. Who can relate? Not even therapists can relate. That we were brainwashed that everything out there is evil. Every therapist is evil. Every doctor is evil. Every person on the street is evil. So we have big trust issues. Yeah. We don't know how to function. When we go out there, the whole world was our enemy.
Right.
And we were told to hate them. Now, this is interesting. Watchtower was the biggest divider of people in the world. They told us to hate what Jehovah hates. Jesus came to die for the whole world, but Jehovah says, hate what I hate those people. And I don't know, you guys want to say something, but I just think, we've got, the reason I think this is so interesting is because when this first belief system collapses, do you know what happens to us? We return to a child again. I don't know a damn thing. I don't know nothing anymore. Maybe that's the place I should stay. Maybe that's where I should stay. Could love be greater than truth? Could love be greater than truth? Anybody wants
Dan,
to
I'm gonna let you talk to your audience. I'm here if you need me. I know you're getting excited, and you get me excited. Everybody.
I always want to climb into the screen,
Rick.
Rick.
A little bit, Dan.
It's all right. I'll tell you what, I've always said it, when Dan Clark comes on, the numbers go up. So I'm looking at numbers like floating to the universe here. So keep up the good work. And I'll let you guys go. All right.
You're as crazy as us, Rick.
Rick's
as crazy as us. Anyway, but anybody want to chime in on any of those things? I'm at the point in my life, I don't know about Connie and Angela, I don't have to be right anymore. I don't have to have everybody's answer, because I know, as much as I scream, this is my answer, this is my path, this is what I know, there's a million people that tell me their path. And we should honor each other's path. We should say, hey, that's your path, prodigal son, right? You get to choose go down these roads.
Mhm.
And if Jesus said, my father's like this, he had two sons. One decides to go down this road. The father did this,
Mm.
you know?
He didn't go chasing after
He didn't
him.
go chasing after him.
Right.
So go ahead, Connie.
Well, I'm sure he prayed for him very much, but then when he came back, he went and ran towards him, and then he had the signet ring, and he had a big feast and party for him. He gave his son the biggest hug and welcome home. He didn't ridicule him and give him the riot act with everything that he had done, sleeping with all the women, the prostitutes, and going through all of his inheritance, and to the point where he had no money at all, and he was eating with the pigs. And with the Jews, you don't ever, in the Old Testament, you don't eat pork. So the last thing you want to do is associate with pigs and be eaten with them.
Yes, for sure.
But that's how poor he was, because he went through his whole inheritance. So, but the point is that there was love there, Dan, right?
Yeah,
There was love.
Part of that trip sounded pretty good. We'll skip that part. But you know what I mean. You guys know what I mean. When you come out of a cult, sometimes you flip out and you go the other way, right?
That's right.
You want to have a good time.
Mhm.
They call it, the spring, the kid with the spring.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I hear laughing.
Yeah.
But, it's true.
Yeah.
I had a good time that part of my life. And I know a whole lot of people that once they got out, it's that spring, you just go out, you don't have any balance. You go back all the way
It
into
goes
the
so
world.
extreme.
That's
It goes
right.
into an
Yes.
extreme.
Right.
You tell me I can't do something, and so I'm going to do just the opposite once I get
That's
out and I
right.
have freedom. I'm
And,
going
and it's to
crazy.
be expected.
It's here,
It's to
Angela.
be expected, right,
Mhm.
guys?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
They
the
go-
way it is.
And I
No
think
guilt.
right,
It's the way it
because they're
is.
so sick and tired of all the restrictions.
Right.
Yes.
It's normal.
But it's to be wise, so you don't get yourself in any kind of trouble physically,
Knock up a girl or something.
yeah, or AIDS or anything like
Right.
that, right?
Yeah.
Hepatitis, whatever. It's really wise to be
Jeez.
balanced, just to be balanced. That's hard for a lot of men, but just to be balanced, and not be extreme.
Yeah, that's a
So-
good thought.
Mhm.
And that's what I think.
Relates to this. And it
That's
said, life is not a problem to be solved or a question to be solved. As witnesses, we were always refuting, we were always debating, we were always trying to prove something that was a spiritual belief, and a belief by definition cannot be proved. So I've learned to be kinder to myself and nicer to myself
Yeah.
and nicer to other people.
Yeah.
And that we don't have to be always ready to defend all the time unless we're in a court of law.
Mhm.
I love that,
I love
Pixie.
that. Thank you, Pixie.
And I think if we learn to, like Jesus always said, to love others, right? To love others, but it's also very important to love ourselves,
Oh, yeah.
which means to
We
treat
were taught
ourselves
to be hard on
with love and
ourselves.
respect.
As witnesses,
Say it again.
we were taught to be hard on ourselves, tough on ourselves,
Oh,
yes.
ourselves. We had
Definitely.
to preach for hours and walk in the rain and God knows what. There was never any relaxing. There was never any self-care. I'm in a little non-allergic vanilla cloud right now because I had an extra long bath and it was sure nice.
That's cute.
It's too much enjoyment, Pixie.
I know it. I know it.
That's
And
cute.
one thing that I have noticed in doing hospice care for my beloveds after years of deadlines and corporate, the 4-year-old me and the 68-year-old me have a lot in common. I think Dan had a good point here. I want a nice bath. I want comfy cotton clothes. I want a cocoa. I want foods that agree with me. I want sleep. We are so conditioned, and I bought into it. As soon as I got a raise, I had to have better clothes and better shoes. And this was corporate, and it was also witness land.
Mm.
The real self, we just want something comfy
You're right, Pixie.
and healthy.
Healthy is important.
You know something
Very healthy.
that helped me when I left was when I realized that everyone this takes the victim out of it, right?
Yeah. Here we
Because
go, Dan. Come on.
when we're in our own little world, we think this only happened to Dan. It only happened to us.
Right.
Us as witnesses, us as world wisers, us as, but you know, this is the honest to God truth, guys. If you hear this, if you can hear this, this will be one more step to you not becoming a victim. And a victim is someone
Let's
that
talk about that.
allows his whole life to be angry. I'm not saying angry for a moment, or we have
It's
our
in
time
part.
of angry. It's a roller coaster, kind of coming out of there, right? Like a marriage.
Yeah. Well, when they're angry, they're like in park for the rest of their life.
You
They
can
can't
stay.
move forward.
Yes, and that's what we want to talk about.
With me, I took the blame.
Gotcha.
Okay, Pixie, can you hold
And
on,
there were
honey?
things I didn't even have part of, and I would take the blame.
Pixie, can you hold off for a while until Dan gets to
I'm
say his
good. I'm
points?
good.
Oh, we're good.
We're good. All I was saying was, if we think about this, guys, this is so cool. This was a big thing because, like Pixie said, she took the blame. I kind of took it as, I thought it was only me. It was only me who was hurt.
Yeah.
So I used to go around to all these places where I was going to get healing, and I'd tell everybody I couldn't wait to say, I got to tell you how bad I was hurt. And it was becoming my only story. And a lady noticed it. I know I've talked about this on the show, but I'm going to show you how it dissolved. The big me, the big, Dan went through this hell with Watchtower, and we didn't get to celebrate Christmas, and we didn't get to this. And I couldn't wait to tell my story. And a lady told me, Dan, do you want to get well or do you want to be a victim?
Right.
And I said,
Right.
I want to get well. And she
Right,
says,
Dan.
well, I hear you. And I know that was painful, but now let's get well. Let's get
Right.
on with, can you leave that train behind? But
Right.
here's another thing, guys. Here was a key
Mm.
that set me free. Everyone that was born into this world has been brainwashed. Everyone that's been born into this world has been born into some kind of ideal, right? If you were born into the Himalayas and you were a Buddhist, you would be a Buddhist. If you were born into a nice Christian family, you would be a Christian. If you were born into Jehovah's Witnesses, you would be a witness, right? And so they have recovery too. Their infrastructures wipe out too. Their worlds end too. And so if we think about it, if we think about it, they were once a child, right? They were programmed by their father. They were programmed by their mother. They were programmed by school. They were programmed by academianism. They were programmed by their religion. They're programmed with politics. Think about it. I'm Fox News. I'm left. I'm right. They're left. It's all division. Religion is all division. Jesus didn't talk about us being all separate. He said, I came here to share this truth with the world about the kingdom within. Anyway, that's another subject. But anyway, I want to get back to
Victim.
yes.
Victim, Dan.
If we can understand that everyone that's been born into this world to some degree has belief systems that will not serve them anymore. And I can prove it. Here's one of the belief systems that may not serve you anymore. Your mate, your husband, your wife might not serve you anymore. It might be a horrible situation. One might be a drunk. One might be abusive. And it may not serve you anymore. So what do?
Yeah.
That you say, I'm done. I'm through. Well, a part of you dies there, right? Family members come and go and die. So everybody, it's weird, guys. Some got it better. Some don't have it as bad. We were in a pretty extreme, harsh cult. But everybody that's been born on this planet has to go through some version of losing a major part of themselves. And it's a good thing, because the part that you're losing didn't belong anyway. I mean, what does that mean? Unless you return as a child. A child doesn't know anything, right?
Right.
What does that mean? What did Jesus mean when he said, unless you return? It's in all the scriptures. I had
To
a whole
just
bunch.
be teachable.
Yes,
be
be teachable.
And to be humble.
To be
And
humble.
not afraid.
And not afraid. You know what
Not
happens?
fearful.
What happens anyway with Watchtower, and even outside of Watchtower, I have a brother that's like this. He's so angry about life with 2 divorces and just issues that have happened in his life. He has brain cancer right now, which is very sad. He's had it for many years. And my brother, his name is Warren, and he's a victim. everything's, he keeps score of everything. Everything's gone wrong. Everything in his marriages, everything in life, he keeps score. And he has built up so much anger and resentment that, his whole mindset is to be a victim. Well, when we come out of Watchtower, there's a lot of people that are like that too. Not just Watchtower, but other cults too. But we're addressing Watchtower. That's why we're here tonight. And you get stuck in that mindset of being a victim, okay?
It's a trap.
It is a trap, and it will absolutely destroy you because you're in park. You can't move forward. You're on the freeway and you're in absolute park. Everybody's going past you and going to their destination, and you are absolutely stuck in that mode because it's renting space in your life. And, instead of saying, you know what, I have a choice in life, which is true. We all have choices. Do I want to be a victim or do I want to be victorious about rising above
good.
my challenges in life, right? And one of them would be leaving this cult. How do you move forward? And you just take it day by day, but it's the choices that people make, and they can definitely move forward. But sometimes, people want to stay in that victim mode, and it's very sad. And how is that demonstrated? Alcoholism, immorality, getting into drugs, partying late at night, not working, getting yourself, in debt, charge, the credit cards, and you're now in so much debt. I mean, it's like a vicious cycle, and it's going down. And yet you do have the power, and you do have the choice to be able to rise above that. And it all starts right here in your mind. But you have to choose. That's what you want for your life.
You know what else too, honey?
Yeah.
I feel like the bottom of the whole thing, the root issue of it is that they made up their mind that God has singled me out and that he's done me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
There you
compared to
go.
everyone else.
There you go,
and,
Angela.
and that ends up being a vicious cycle because then you don't say, you know what, I'm going to talk to God about this. I'm going to surrender to God. I'm going to say, God, help me. I'm just going to ask God to help me out of the situation. You won't go there because you're mad at God now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And and so I was once mad at God.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
who hasn't been mad at God
Oh,
if
yeah.
he'll really admit it?
Right.
Because you've done me wrong, God. This is so not fair.
Right.
Why would you allow this to happen? Everybody else seems to be happy
pretty
and doing
natural.
much better than me.
Right.
So then that's right there. That's a victim. I've been a victim. Who hasn't been, right?
Right.
But we do have to decide once and for all that, you know what? Oh my gosh, I have come to realize that everybody else has got crazy story too. If I just try to find out, oh my gosh, it's everyone. It's not just me. And so then, like going to 12 step really helped me with that because everybody's telling their crazy stories.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one.
Right.
You get humble from that.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, so I'm not so special. I'm not so singled out by God after all, I guess. And then you start to say, okay, then what do I really want then? And how do I get this turned around? How do I get the ship going the other way since I seem to be going the wrong direction?
Right.
And then you have to make up your mind that I'm not stop looking at everything in a negative slant, like grieving, like life is such a drudgery. I've been there, man, guys.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
it's a pitiful place because you know what?
It's very
I
dark.
don't know why, but it draws more of the same to you.
Oh, good
Yeah,
point.
I kid you not.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to pretty much
definitely.
make up your mind that,
Yeah.
I'll say I'm starting to do this more often, but when I start to feel like I'm going, in my attitude, this is what I do. I go like this. And I smile real big. And somehow all these endorphins start going in your body and it turns it around. And I just keep doing it too. Even if I have to do it for a good solid 3 minutes, it turns it around. You get goosebumps inside and it just, I don't know, but it helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, honey, the thing is, I've been out of the organization 42 years, and I can totally relate to what Angela's saying. And, when I was a witness like Dan was, because Angela was Worldwide Church of God, but still another cult. The thing is that, I was true blue, 100% in. I was in for 12 years. Okay. But then when I started to see the hypocrisy, I started to see the lies. I also started to see the lack of love. Those were some huge, huge red flags. Not being able to go to college, people struggling financially, and all that. So there were a lot of red flags for me. And Angela, when I left the organization, I was very, angry at God.
Yeah.
I was so angry because I had dedicated so much of my time, my money, my resources, my whole entire life, my whole direction in life. And then to find out that 75 just came and went, 76, 77, 78, so forth, right? And it was like, oh my God, this is nothing but a big lie.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I put my whole life on hold for the new system, and it's nothing but a big lie. And then where's the love? Where is the love? There is no love. I'm not seeing the love. That was a clincher too.
And you end up blaming God
I
for a
did.
false
I did.
idea.
I
mean,
did.
I've been there. It's
I
like,
did, Angela.
oh my gosh, I thought God was like this.
Yep.
And then I was mad at him for that. And then
Yep.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that wasn't God at all. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been mad at the wrong God, if you know what I'm saying, guys. Hey, by the way, on the people on the iPhones, what I did was I smiled really, really big as I could. And that's what I see that you can't see what I was doing there, but I was smiling like really big time.
Yeah.
And that's what I do for, as long as I can to bring the endorphins back in my body, and it turns my attitude around. So it's just a trick I do, but anyway, I want you to know that.
So the point I wanted to make, getting back to that, is it took me many, many years to realize the fault was not with Jehovah God.
Yes.
The blame was not meant for him. The blame was for the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, which is a corporation. They are totally two separate entities.
That's right.
And it took me a long time to figure that one out because I didn't find Six Screens until 10 years ago. But once you realize that God's not the one that's making you do all this suffering and pain, it's Watchtower. They're the ones that are lying to you, the false prophecies, lack of love, it goes on and on and on. Yeah. And once you realize that, you just separate those issues, then you can see things very, very clearly.
Because they made God in their own image.
There you go, Angela.
And then they're trying to get us to buy in to the image of God they made.
That's exactly
it's false.
Right. It is.
That's
false.
not God's fault.
Right.
Right.
And that's why a lot of people, when they leave the organization, they're atheists.
That's right.
I was one of them.
Somebody's trying to talk, I think.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah.
Does someone want to chime in?
Oh, yeah. This is Joe from Colorado.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
Hi.
How you guys doing? Great program.
Good.
Thank you, Joe. I'm wearing my Denver T-shirt from you.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yep.
Hey, I wanted to share something kind of ties in with what Dan was saying about, the so-called truth versus love. It wasn't until I was out of the Watchtower that can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Joe.
Sound good, Joe.
Yep.
Okay. I never realized, as a kid, of course, I grew up in the Watchtower, and we'd go to all these conventions.
Right.
And there was never a convention where they taught, where it was about Christ or love or it was always death. I'll never forget the first convention. I was so scared because it was the Amorites or the Hittites, but they were all dying at the hands of the God of the Watchtower and his army, right?
Yep.
And, it was always scary. And there was never, actually the dramas, now that I'm out, I realized they were used to put fear into people. Can you think of ever going to a drama, and I'm talking about when they used to do the real life dramas.
Yeah.
They were never encouraging. Somebody was going to die. I'll give you one drama they did that scared me to death.
Oh, yeah.
And it made you feel guilt-ridden. It was the drama of Achan, where, his whole family was killed. And then I think I was a little older at the time. I remember the moderator said, so if you know a family member that is doing something wrong, you need to report that person because the God of the Watchtower will take his Holy Spirit away. Well, that never made sense to me. But, now that I'm out of the Watchtower, you see that it was all fear.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of goes in line with what Dan said. It's love versus truth. Truth is fine, but you have to have love in your heart for individuals. And lastly, I'll stop with one point. today, I had an interesting situation where I was part of a team that was able to help somebody. And, you don't need to be in a certain religion to show deep love for your neighbor.
Right.
To know that the golden rule.
Yep.
You don't need that. All you need is love in your heart and a good, a well-balanced life. So anyway, I don't want to talk too much. I love the show. Thank you. I'll let you go.
Thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you,
We
Joe.
love
Thanks,
you
Joe.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
That's a good point. And what did Jesus say when he said, how are you going to identify people that, know that way,
Yeah.
know his way? He didn't say his truth. He said you'd know them by their love.
Right.
Yeah, their joy, their peace. He said you'd know them by the fruits of the Spirit.
Right.
And so that's really what matters. And so much knowing, you remember what he said to the Pharisees? I think he was talking about the Bible. I hate to say it, but you remember what he said about the Bible?
Go ahead.
The letter kills.
Oh,
He
yeah.
said,
He did say
the way
that.
you're using the Bible, it
Yeah.
kills. You're killing people with that thing,
Well, they had 613
Laws added to
that
it.
they memorized,
Yeah.
and they were all about the law,
Yeah, and
not love.
King David said
Here,
that
listen to Angela.
that God wants mercy, not sacrifice. So that means that he was putting love, mercy above law.
Right.
It's more important. And so the Watchtower makes it all about law.
Right.
Forget the love. It's like backwards.
Right. Right. And unfortunately, the organization wants you just to follow everything that the governing body teaches, all their rules and regulations. And it's not about love, because if it was about love, you wouldn't be sacrificing your children with the blood doctrine and having them die. You
Yep.
wouldn't be destroying husband and wives when the elders get in the middle of it
Yes.
and start, destroying the marriage. I mean, they don't have a right to do that. That's
No.
all legalism.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's not mercy.
That's
either.
not mercy.
And
it's
I want to say
certainly
that
not love.
that's a good point,
Mm.
because just so you know, guys, I just want to bring this out again and again and again.
That's okay.
It's not only in Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right.
When I got out of the Jehovah's Witnesses and, thought everything bad about it, Angela's mother and father were instrumental in trying to tear us apart because I wasn't their religion.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Isn't that
Wow.
ridiculous? This is what I'm saying about truth versus love.
Mm.
I looked at them and I said, are you guys say you're Christians. I thought Christians were trying to stay together and keep marriages together.
Right.
And here you're trying to pull my wife away from me because I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist or I'm not a Messianic or whatever it is.
Worldwide
When
Church of God.
does that kind of crap, supersede love? If you have love, me and Angela had love, and they were trying to rip it to shreds because of belief systems. And I've got to tell you something, they don't believe the same today as they believed back then. What they once believed, when her mother looked at me one day and says, I'll never accept him, she finally accepted me. But she
Wow,
changed
Dan.
her belief system. She
Wow.
loved me at the end.
Because she got to know you.
Yeah.
She got to know your character.
Push
And you
aside
were
the
a good man
beliefs,
for her daughter.
drop down into your heart,
Wow.
and start loving.
Wow.
Knowingness separates us for some reason, so much knowingness. But I wanted to touch back on the victim thing again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say this because whenever we talk about victims,
Yeah.
people right away get real sensitive and they say, oh, they don't like us talking about things on the show and sharing and getting mad and our hurts. That ain't what we're talking about, guys.
Mm.
Victim will destroy you. Here's
yeah.
what a victim is to me.
Mhm.
And a victim is a person who's falling in love with his story. He loves
With his misery.
He can't wait to tell
His
the
pain and
misery.
Tell about your brother Phil.
Yeah, my brother, for example, he had a disease. I won't go into it because I don't want anybody to judge, but he'd tell me, you don't know my pain, Dan. And I'd say, I really don't. I'm sorry. You have no idea.
He had a chronic illness.
Yes, he had a chronic illness. But it was this long story. Do you know what I went through last week? No, I don't know what you went through last week. And it was on and on. And then I'd see him in a group of people. Let me tell you guys a little bit about me. And it was a 2-hour story. And then an hour later, he went into another room. And anyway, it's like this, I don't know, it's falling in love. And here's what you're really getting from it, because I had a therapist analyze it one day, why people get stuck in it.
Yeah.
Here's why people get stuck in it and
Yeah.
don't fall for it.
Yeah.
It's sympathy. Sympathy. You start falling in love with sympathy. You start telling people, here's what happened. They go, oh man, Dan, that's horrible. Were they really that bad? Oh man, you have no idea how bad it was in there. My God, you have, yeah, you know, and you just fall in love with it. So you fall in love with sympathy. So a therapist told me one time, he actually was talking to a group, but he said, will you give up sympathy for something greater? That's the payoff your ego, your flesh is getting, is sympathy. And he says, if you want that sympathy, then you'll tell your story the rest of your life and you'll never become anybody. And that's what we're talking about tonight. That is a trap. It's not talking about it. It's not sharing our story. It's not even being mad sometimes and being furious. And maybe we'll talk about it for a couple years, you know. But there's a certain thing where we start enjoying the sympathy. And I'll tell you, when it gets really sick, I had a therapist who dealt with a lot of victims. And he was in Boulder University. He was a professor. And he said, boy, you've never seen a worse fight in the world if you try to take a story away from a victim. If you try to, you know, overdo him with your story, he said, in fact, if you want to see two people kill each other, he said, put two victims in the same room. He said, each one of them will battle for the story. Well, I was raped 20 times and I was abused this way by my dad and my father was no. And the person said, well, let me tell you my story. And he said, if you want to watch two people kill each other, just put two victims in the room. So anyway, there's a part of telling your story that can take us down the tubes. And that's what we don't want to do if we're rebuilding our life. And I got to say this, if you really want to help somebody, it takes great courage. But you might have to tell somebody, hey, I hear you. That was painful. But you might have to say the same thing as that woman said to me, but do you want to get well?
Well, that's
you got to have the courage to tell somebody you're a victim. You got to have the courage to tell somebody they're an alcoholic.
Right.
If somebody's on there just drunk, you know, you got to say, hey, man, you know, you may want to knock off that a little bit. I know in the witness says we could drink as much as we want and this and that. But, you know, I feel like it might be getting a little hold of you or something. But it takes great courage to do this. But if you really want to help somebody, if you really want to be of help and service to somebody, these are the tough things we have to do sometimes if we're really their friend. The worst thing you can do is tell somebody, you know, hey, man, I don't know if you know a little bit about victim, you know, or something, but you kind of break it to them because you see them going down that slippery slope where many times they don't recover. Some people, usually a victim will be a victim till they die. They'll be in a nursing home screaming at the top of their lungs about how they're being treated bad. I've watched it. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. So I was saved from that because a lady that had leather skin looked at me and said, Dan, you don't want to go down that road. I see you going down that road. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Marcia.
Yes, amen.
You saved my life. You saved my life. Someone saved my life tonight. Elton John, someone saved my life today. You remember that song?
Yeah.
Somebody told him the truth. He told him that person's not in love with you. And he made a song on it. Someone saved my life tonight. Sugar Bear. You remember? And so that's part of the life-saving work we can do. We have to sometimes mention that because these are things that we use to cover over our pain, to deflect, to move away from, you know, getting healthy and whole. You know, and anyway, I just wanted to share that. Go ahead, guys.
I just
When I was mentioning about taking the blame, if you do an inventory, which I did, and you've been successful, which I was, and I didn't need a 12-step, which I didn't, and I have no debt, which I don't. But I wasn't happy. And I had to leave the narcissistic personality cluster B people at the bus stop. I was surrounded by narcissistic cluster B people. And I went to people with my trauma and my pain, and they didn't sympathize and say, I hear you, because they too were cluster B.
Oh, yes. They love the story.
That's right. You know,
oh my God.
So I was loving my story in a way because I did need help. But when I talked to a gentleman who wrote a book called Undoing Yourself, he says to me, you know what? We don't teach about narcissistic personality disorder in your bachelor's degree. We only teach it to the master's degree people because those people that hurt you they ain't the paying customer. They'll never think anything is wrong with them. And when I looked at that and realized what had happened, I was able to let that go, take responsibility for myself, which I have since I was 9 years old, but no longer blame myself for all the people that surrounded me in religion, in corporate, and in every other thing in my home life. Because there were a few nice people in my neighborhood, and thank God for the public library, but a lot of people were out to hurt me because they were selfish people.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so good, Pixie.
Yeah, it is. I just think one of the problems is that codependency, I love learning about it. It really helps so much. But one of the things that codependency kind of gets off on is saying that, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. Stay in your own skin, mind your own business. And I think that there is a place for that. Absolutely. But there does come the time, like Dan says, when that is our responsibility. Like, for example, if you're the closest person to that person and you have to say to yourself, would anyone else have the right to say something to this person more than me? And would they? And then you have to think about it. Like, maybe I'm being called to say the thing that the elephant in the room needs to be said. And it needs to be said in love, right? In love, absolutely in love.
Right.
But I just think that so often anymore, especially in this day and age, everybody's attitude is, well, it's none of my business.
I'm going to stay out of
That's
it.
before God. I think sometimes that is the absolute wrong choice to do that. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
I was going to say that.
Angela, I think you and I had some similar dynamics because your parents and the people around you acted like they were always correct and they were hurting you.
Yes. That's right. I needed somebody to say, I'll never forget.
I'm not playing victim here, but it wasn't until I understood about these selfish cluster B personality types, and they can't help it.
I know.
And got a boundary and did my life and realized, I am succeeding. But people around me were like, oh, well, you need to do it the witness way. That's the only way to be successful. Well, no, it wasn't. It was hurtful.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll never forget when Dan stood up at a nice black-eyed pea, and it was like it was the first time he met my parents, really. And anyway, Dan just stood up and he says, F no, she's not going to do that. And I'm like, and he just met them. And I'm like, yes, like for once somebody said the truth, the right thing, defended me, defended what is right. And not just that, Angela's got to be smashed down again because she's nothingness. But he stood up for me, and I don't know, it was a beautiful moment for me because I couldn't get up and say, yeah, thanks, Dan. I just had to, stuff it, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking under my breath, thank you, God, for somebody to defend me. And that began the change, a lot of change.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, the victim, with regards to the victim role, people have to want to heal. They have to want to be better. Just like even Jesus said to, whether it was a blind man or someone who was lame, it was one of those miracles. He said to him, do you want to get well?
Yeah.
That's what he asked him. Do you want to get well? And the man said, yes, Lord, I do want to get well. Now, isn't that interesting how he asked that?
Yes.
Because he didn't just assume that, okay, I'm Jesus, I'm going to heal you and you'll be fine. No, some people don't want to heal. Some people don't want to get better.
It's like Pixie said, there's a group of people that love the victim.
Oh, yes, they do.
All love
they
giving
do.
sympathy,
They
receiving
love
sympathy.
that.
So they find each other.
Well, misery loves company.
Yeah.
That's the
What other
expression.
group besides the witnesses? What other group besides the witnesses would want parents to not talk about their child succeeding in college?
Well, I don't know about
Good
yours.
point.
Was yours like that? Was your group like that?
And I was 68 years old before I knew that the proper good expression when two people get engaged before the wedding, the parents are supposed to say to the young man or young woman, welcome to our family.
And
Yes.
there were witnesses. I mean, I knew witnesses that maybe the husband would go to the wedding and not the wife. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I saw
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I saw that happen.
Me too.
Yep.
You know, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it's true. And just like you, at a certain point, you know, you were ready for that book. All of us. How many books have you given away to people?
Yeah.
I've given away books and said, man, you got to read this. You got to look. And they're just covered with dust. I go in a month later and the guy didn't do nothing with them. I picked them back up, dusted them off. But you're ready when you're ready. If you want to be sad your whole life, here's the thing about.
You got to do internal work, huh, Dan?
Connie said something. And I'm going to say it again. That should be the first question you should ask somebody is, do you want to get well?
Right.
And you'll be surprised. Here's the surprise. I'm pissed and I don't want to get well. You know, don't tell me I'm not telling you. I just said, do you want to get well? And so that's one of those things. If they don't want to get well, kick the dust off. You know, I'm not for Scientology, but they did have a saying in there. I heard a guy say it. They want to help the able become more able because there's people that are unable. They're unable to get well for whatever reason.
They're disabled.
Yes, they're disabled.
They've hidden this information. They've hidden this information only for the graduate level and PhD level people because these narcissists are everywhere and they do not seek the clinician's help room. They don't seek a therapy room. And that leaves the rest of us out here with, you know, they should be praying, but they're PRYE praying.
Well, in Watchtower, the governing body members are all narcissists. So that's what we came out of the system.
Absolutely. And they've given over the common folk have given over their power to these 11 men who don't give a tinker's damn about them.
Yep, they don't.
That's the truth.
They don't.
That's right. That's exactly right. And we got to be careful, even with our programming now, even with college. A lot of college is programming you into certain political ideologies. And I mean, the kids are totally
things have changed. There won't even be jobs in 20 years. It's going to be basic income, and your plumber and your dentist will not be outsourced.
Yes. You know something interesting.
Okay.
If we can look at the world, if we can look at, I mean, this is a crazy way to look at things, but if we can look at the world as everything is trying to program us, right? If you watch Fox News long enough, you'll be programmed. If you watch CNN long enough, you'll be programmed, and you'll be absolutely certain. You know, my wife's father, he's into CNN. So if you tell him, well, I voted for Trump, you know, he's like, I hate you. You know, I mean, real hate. And I realized at one point that these are just indoctrination tanks. It's just dividing us. You have to hate Obama if you're for Trump. You know. Anyway, I would just say a lot of that stuff is programming. And if we realize that most of this stuff, even a lot of religions, a lot of things, political, academia, a lot of that separates us from one another. Anyway, go ahead.
Hello. You're pragmatic and think that's true. And be kind.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Irreplaceable clock repair person here. How are you all? This is Joe.
Joan Friend. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's a party.
It's a party. We just made a short video, and what I was doing is just recognizing that what Watchtower ushered us through, because you see, we entered the theater. They ushered us in. They ushered us into a guided learning experience where we basically chose to undergo their training. We did. And what they did, they kind of sweet talked us into being humble. Very humble. And through being so humble, that sets the stage for them being able to basically be the narcissist that they always wanted to over us. And a humble person is easily dominated, which is exactly what they wanted and still do want. So you come out, and humility was the downfall. this thing called humility is really trouble for us humans. We need a good self-concept. We need to be proud of healthy things that we possess and that we can develop. They tore us down. They didn't want us to be proud of anything healthy that we possessed. They just wanted us to be quote unquote humble, so that they could lord it over us.
That's
so now
right.
people come out, and we need to develop a healthy self-concept with the kind of pride where you feel good about being the other person, and you feel good being you, and you look at each other and you're glad who you are, who each other is, and that's not something that we were exposed to in Watchtower. We are being exposed to it now, though. And with the internet, my goodness, we have so much exposure for alternate kinds of points of view and activities and things that we can involve ourselves with. There is no better time than now for us to basically get healthy. And I think we all are getting there.
Yes.
Love you all.
I do too.
I was going to. Hey, we love,
Love
you.
you too.
Hey, I was going to say, Joe, that's the thing I got to tell you is it's a lot more fun building your temple than letting someone else build it. And what we didn't realize when we were born, I didn't realize, I was born into the witnesses, so I didn't recognize that they were building my inner temple. Because what your temple is made of, or your inner man, or who you think you are, is just a pile of belief systems and infrastructures and positionalities just based on what you know, based on your teachers, your mother, father, your church, your religion, all that stuff, right? But they collapse.
I have to acknowledge that the born-ins do have a much different circumstance than someone like us. We were not born in, so I recognize.
But Joe, it's still a temple. If what we didn't realize was they're temple builders, and so is your media. Fox News and CNN are temple builders. They will reign in this temple because once you start to believe it as true, that there's a them and a them, a us and a them, not they are me and I am them. But when you believe, when you do that with religion, it's them and me. They got to go. I'm going to stay. When you do that, your temple is corrupted. And that's why I was bringing out at the beginning of the show, is there something greater than truth? Is love greater than truth? We've all, you ask anybody who's got the truth and lie detect them. It'll resonate as 100% true.
Nobody has the truth.
Good point, Joe. Glad you said it instead of me.
Nobody has the truth. That's the biggest baited snare bait in the world. Nobody has the truth, but they either live truthfully or not.
It was explained to me years ago that Socrates is mortal and Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates will die. And that is truth. We use logic and we come to a way of thinking that cannot be refuted. And then we get to things like, I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
But most people aren't taught to think.
Yeah.
Namaste.
There are facts that you can't undeniable.
Right. That's what truth is.
That's well, wait a minute. Well, why do they call things truth and then things called facts?
Because they're trying to bamboozle you?
Well, exactly. So in other words, it's like looking for fantasy.
Stay with your logic, stay with your practicality and your pragmatism, and look at facts. And again, I'm okay, you're okay, where it's not division, and you'll be all right.
That's right.
The only problem is humans have an imagination.
Yes.
A very accessible imagination. And this is where if you're not in control of your own imagination, someone else will be.
True
That's
fact.
Right,
They
guys.
will be.
That's right.
Hey, there's this saying that Wayne Dyer talked about in the movie called The Shift. And I think it was Lao Tzu. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. But it was something like this. It was like, what was true in the morning was a lie in the evening. So that was an interesting saying. And he was talking about the AM and PM of your life in there. And so what's true in the AM of your life becomes a lie in the end. And I think how true that is,
Yeah.
Do you know? Do you guys?
Hey guys.
Go ahead.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi,
It's Sharon.
Hey, Sharon. Good hearing your voice.
How's everybody tonight?
Good.
It's just a little, hoarse.
That's all right. You sound good.
Thank you. It's interesting that Joe said that humans have imagination, because I was beeping in to say that I view my time in Watchtower Land as a roller coaster that took me through the fears that you get when you're coming down really quick, only to go up in hope, and then come storming down again, and then taking you through the tunnels of monsters and stuff like that you learned about the outside world, but not the inside world.
Yeah. And
then when you finally stepped off because you've had enough, you run to the bathroom to vomit. That's your victimhood. And as long as you're in that bathroom vomiting, you're not going to get over it. There comes a time you got to reach for the paper towel, run that sink, wash your face, step out of there, and go to the other park where there's nothing but find love that you know is there. Even if you got to pick up every rock, every leaf, every twig, you go through that one, and you'd be surprised at the people you find along the way who also just left that bathroom and that roller coaster.
That's
That's
so
so
good.
good. Oh man, Sharon, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I like that idea of the imagination, Sharon, because we wanted to talk tonight truthfully about dreams, about dreaming. And when you're a victim and you choose to be a victim, one thing you're not doing is you're not dreaming, because if you were, you would have some sort of hope, like you were just saying there, Sharon. We all need hope, right? We need to hope that there's love in the world.
Right.
But we also have to, kind of choose to dream. And, Dan, I remember, I think I've shared this on here before a while back, but when I met Dan, we talk about dreaming. We're learning about dreaming and visualizing what you'd maybe like to see in the future, because it tends to happen, And he said, well, I really don't know how to do that. I really don't even, I don't do that. I can't do that. And I'm like, what? But you know what? If you're taught to go, obey, go to this study, go to that study, go to, door-to-door ministry, do this, do that, you don't have any time for any such thing. So you come out of there not having the ability or practice of dreaming like you do when you were a kid. But to come out of that mode of
right, and dreams are very important, because if they weren't important, they wouldn't have been mentioned for like Daniel and Joel. That men would dream of dreams and the young ones would have visions. There wouldn't be any mentions of that if dreams weren't important.
You're right, Sharon. The old men would dream dreams and the young men would see visions? But you're right. We have to have dreams.
And the young maidens, yes.
Yeah, so we do have to have dreams. And, it's like there's what's the different sayings about, according to your faith, be it unto you. It says that in the Bible. According to your faith, according to your belief, that's what it means. According to your vision, according to your dreams, be it unto you. But if we don't dream and we don't believe and we don't hope, then we don't have anything to have happen. Be it unto you. If nothing's going to happen, we're just going to get more of the same, because that's the way we're living. That's what we think about all day long. And you tend to get more of the same of what you're thinking about all the day long. So we have to change that thinking and to start having a little bit of dreams, that you had once upon a time when you were a kid. You just forgot, some of us who have just come out, We don't know about the dreaming anymore. We don't know about hope. Hoping is dreaming about something different in the future that you dream of having. And that there's this one guy, was Allan Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. Is that the guy? He had done a book called As a Man Thinketh. Allan Poe. Allan Poe. And anyway, he said that his mother worked in a factory, and all day long it was a long drudgery of a day, and he was a kid running around in there. But for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but he started going around saying, "Mom, one day I'm going to buy you a home. Mom, one day we're going to be rich. Mom, one day." And as a matter of fact, all you ladies in here, one day I'm going to make you so happy. We're going to have so much money. And he goes on and on like this every day. And at some given point, which I don't know at what point, but it was fairly young, somebody gave this little kid an opportunity, and that opportunity led to more opportunity, and it was no time flat, and he was very, very rich. And he did get his mother out of that factory, and he did buy her a home, and they lived very happily and made a lot of people happy. And he wrote a wonderful book, As a Man Thinketh, as it says in the Bible, as a man thinketh, so is he. And so if we think negatively all day long, we're going to get that. If we think positively all day long, we choose that, then we get that. It's really that simple, and he proves it in his book, As a Man Thinketh.
Yeah, and I've always liked that thought too, that that returning home. I love that when the prodigal son turns back home. We talked about the ring. Connie mentioned you got the ring.
Yes.
The ring meant that everything the father had was yours.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It was returned to you.
What's interesting too is when we were talking about this earlier was Job, that Job thought, God was his things, that, God was all the things he had. And then he lost everything, right? Because pretty much everything out here crumbles eventually, your jobs, lots of things. But what he found after that was he said this at first. He said, "In hearsay I heard about you," which was having all the things and, calling that God.
Everything his friends told him that God was, and his church told him that God was. That's what he said. And hearsay, that's what I learned. That's what I heard about you, God. But now.
Yeah, but now my own eyes do see you.
The real God.
And I'm like, wow. I mean, just think about that, guys. When we return home, whatever home is, right? It says when we return home from this prodigal journey, everything I have is yours. Think about that. Everything I have is yours. I'm wondering this, and this is what I wanted to ask at the beginning of the show. Is returning home, returning to that child like nature, that maybe he doesn't know everything. But one thing I know about a child, and you guys could tell me, everyone says that when they look into a child's eyes, they see awareness, pure awareness. They don't know hate. They don't know division. They don't know left or right. The white boy plays with the black boy. They have fun. They don't know anything. And here the master says, return to that if you want to enter the kingdom or the queendom, which is women, kingdom, men. If you want to enter that, and you want to enter that today, not in heaven, but right here and now, if you want to enter the kingdom, I wonder if returning home is returning back to that humble child that isn't fighting everybody, that don't have to sell everybody. I know when I was in religion, and her mother too, they always had to sell me, are you keeping the Sabbath? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? We do this in our religion. We do. And it was like, oh my God, it never ended. And you know what happened, guys, when I got out of there? I had no imagination. You know what I mean? I had no vision of the future. Do you know why? Because Watchtower not only built my temple, me not knowing, they built it. They said, here's what we believe. Here's what the Bible says, and they took us through their tapestry of scripture, right? And it became a living, breathing inner kingdom that Watchtower controlled. Watchtower controlled it from Watchtower Farms, through the magazines, through the programming that happens inside the Kingdom Hall. So you go into the Kingdom Hall and you plug yourself in, right? Because this is an inner temple. This is a non-linear temple that's within this temple. These are temples, the body is the temple, right? It's a house. Inside your house is a living, breathing entity that who was on here a little while ago? The man,
Pixie or Joe?
Joe. Joe was saying that, that temple was constructed, right? And we live from it. And we don't even know it. It's like automatic pilot. We go to the meeting, they read the same 3 scriptures over there. Sharon said one time in one of her books that they only read 100 and some scriptures over and over and over and over. So it's a program. And so we don't even know we're being programmed. We're innocently going into the Kingdom Hall, plugging back into Paradise Tomorrow. We're told not to imagine. We're told to fear. We're told not to dream because dreaming's coming in the future. That's why the banner of the show, I put a watchtower, a real dark image of a watchtower, and then these people over here building your own future today, right? Because Watchtower, if you really, really think about their paradise, what do we have to go through to get to that paradise? I mean, it's aside from the slavery, if you think about what happens at Armageddon, if you're a person who has an unbelieving partner, you're going to watch Jehovah slaughter your wife, or Jesus, whoever has the big sword, right? Yeah. You're going to have your wife being ground up, like it says in a wine press with a big blade, right? You're going to have your children being grinded up. You're going to have grandpa being ground up. You're going to have your friends being ground up. And then there's going to be this blood, they said, that rises to the cow's neck. And then I guess supernaturally, they don't know. I've never heard how they said it's going to be cleaned up. I always thought we were going to clean it up. But that don't sound like paradise to me. And I don't know how I'd feel about God if I saw God killing all these people. Would I even perceive good people? Because when we were a witness, right, it was anybody outside of our door was going to be genocided, right? And so I don't know how I'd feel about God if I saw a real genocide happen by God. I'd be like, wow, I'd be scared to death. I don't feel like I'd feel any freedom. I don't think I'd even enjoy paradise after I saw somebody get killed. I mean, I've never seen anybody get killed in front of my eyes. But could you imagine seeing somebody getting killed right in front of your eyes?
No. And for that reason, we do not choose to listen to that kind of crap in our lives. We don't. It should not be regurgitated, guys. It's like, if that's what you're going to end up feeling about God, then it's not good for you right now. It isn't.
That's right.
You don't need it.
So that baby.
Not right now.
Not right now. So that baby, I think, is pure awareness. Jesus used that. I think it was 3 times. I looked it up today. And it was in Matthew twice and Luke twice. And he said, you're not getting in. You are not getting in to this awareness, to this peace, to this joy, to this love, unless you can let go and become as a child again. And that's when everything moves. Go ahead. I was just going to say, everything moves from there. I believe that's the returning home. And when we get back there, I believe your life moves from glory to grace. If you don't get hung up on these other things, angry, you just, for the rest of your life, I'm talking about, right? If you don't get hung up there, your life can move pretty quickly because there's a kingdom at hand. There's an energy field coming right directly from God that is now moving you. A spirit of truth, a spirit is moving you into your infinite possibilities. Here's what I want to say. This right here is truthfully a universe. This is a universe. And I'll tell you why it's a universe. Because what's happening in here is not really happening in here. It's connected to something out here. When they take your brains out, there's some thinking still going on. If your brain shuts off, whatever, you're still thinking. So we're not our thinking. We're more than our thinking. We're more than our belief systems. When your belief systems died, you were still here, right? It was just an infrastructure. It was just a positionality. Go ahead, Angela. You want to say something?
I'm just going to say, when you see a little child and just a precious, precious, innocent child, and you look in their eyes. I mean, if ever you want to know if there's any goodness in the world, just look at a precious child, not the brat ones, okay? But a precious child who's in a loving spirit, and look in their eyes, and you see this pure God depth of essence of love and non-fear and just such a beauty. It's so deep. It's so beautiful. And, and I've witnessed a couple people die And they, like my grandfather, for example, he was so precious. And at the end, he was unconscious for days on end, no food. And anyways, the very last day, literally hours before he died, very shortly thereafter, but I went and sang him a song, and all of a sudden his eyes just flitted open, and oh my gosh, they were so deep and so brilliant and so blue and so holy and so depth. And it's like he returned to a little child. And I was shocked because he'd been unconscious for days on end, and he was already blue all over. He's about ready to blue, like literally an hour and a half, he was dead. And he opened his eyes, and I was in awe of that. And I've seen this again with my mom. And where in the end, it's like as if she had lots of moments in that period, that process of dying, where she returned to a little child. And I feel my grandfather did too. And so it's interesting. We come in pure and we end up, hope to God, we leave pure. That's me, good. That's the hope, right? We leave pure, because I know my grandfather, he's listening to the fighting going on in the room, being unconscious. He's listening to, us doing the dishes and just, eating the whole thing. And then in little, everybody thinks he's not hearing anything. I knew he did. I knew it. Sure enough, his eyes woke up. And I remember saying to him, Grandpa, you're looking at me. I'm like, and later I'm like, oh, how stupid. And then he closed his eyes, and that was the end. An hour and a half later, he's gone. And so they're
called the Swan Song. It's called the Swan Song. It's in the hospice literature, and you were very honored to have it happen twice to two beloveds.
Yes.
It doesn't always happen, but it's called the Swan Song.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Wow.
I like
wow.
that.
Can you imagine, guys, if we actually moved into love, what God could do with us? And if we're made in that image, if God said, my Father's love, God is love. And what if it is that we're returning to love? What if we really are returning to love, which means dying to self, dying to positionality, dying to being right, dying to all these things, and we just let love reign? You know what I think God would say? Man, I can work with that. I can work with that, because that is him, or that is it, or that is whatever it is. But I know the sun comes up every day and it doesn't ask anything of me. It shines on me. It gives me food. Food comes out of the ground. The earth is always giving. The air is always blowing. The sun is always shining. The water's always flowing, and it doesn't ask anything back. What could God do if we return to that? That's what I think
That's what the true creator is. That is creator, as the native people taught, that he didn't ask anything back. And there's a math to it. I don't understand how it works, but it works every day.
Yes, it works every day. That's where I think that saying namaste comes from. You ever heard of that saying, namaste? It just means that the indwelling God in me honors the God in you. And what if we really had that to everybody? We were like, because here was my dilemma about a month ago. I said, we always think God only created me in his image and likeness, right? I mean, when we think about it from a religious standpoint. But man, when you think God created every man and woman in his image and likeness.
Every plant, every tree, everything. And the math of that, the probability of that, which again, I don't know how it works. But there seems to be a higher math above everything. I was no math student. But there's a higher math above everything that works.
Yeah, so how, Pixie, since we've known, I knew for 40 years that I was absolutely certain, and after 40, I didn't know nothing at all again. How can we be absolutely certain about anything? I think Jesus.
I am certain about. I am certain that the sun will. Quote Annie, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Right.
Thank God.
Right. But just about so many positionalities, I think we've got to be careful, because it's like they say, there's all these infinite possibilities raining down, right? Like the Matrix. But once you collapse in on, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, everything goes. I'm not going to be a Christian. I'm not going to be.
It's a very limited perspective.
Yes.
We were given a very limited handbook, a very limited perspective. I often say it was like there was a brick on our head. You talked tonight about dreams and future plans and potentiality. Once you step away from that, as I did, realizing on a Thursday night, if I can sit my fanny in the chair for this long, I can go from high school to a college night class and get an A, because I'm used to being awake on Thursday night.
Yes.
And it worked for me. Okay? So what they trained us physically and emotionally and mentally to do, use those business skills, use that dressing for business, use the fact that you're awake on a Thursday from 7 to 9 and really aware for yourself. And also the pain of life, that life is impermanent. They taught us wrong. We were not taught to value this noble and fragile world that we were born into. They taught us wrong about life and death. And as Angela notes, and as I have noted, if you've done any hospice care at all, you get a different view of your own life. And they're lying to the people about death and life and time and energy and potential. They lied to us about everything like that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a
right.
good point. You know, this is what's beautiful, guys. We feel like sometimes, Pixie, like it was the end of our world, and it was the end of a world. There's a million worlds, millions of worlds of planets we could be on inside of our own head. Like, say, if you want to know what if he's on another planet, just ask him, you know. But the truth is here's the thing: when that infrastructure does collapse, and if we keep this in mind, all it is a bunch of belief systems. All we are is a bunch of belief systems and positionalities. And when those collapse, there's something else there. There's divine substance. And that's the part of us that's pure. That's the part of us that's innocent. Now, here's the beautiful thing. If we can keep this in mind, and this is everybody, we got to remember it didn't only happen to Dan or us witnesses. It's happening to the whole world. Just as many people are leaving Christianity, people are going into Christianity, people are moving into Buddhism, and they all get to go on their journeys. But if we could remember, you know, this isn't only happening to me, but remember this. When we begin again, when the infrastructure goes, if we don't go victim, if we don't go bury it, you know, if we don't drink ourselves to death, we don't do all these things, we have a clean slate. And here's the thing, we can build the temple any way we want. We can build it now. Not just allow ourselves to be built, not just allow ourselves to fall into the hands of television and all of its programming, but we can actually start from a clean slate. Everybody's abandoned me. I'm all by myself.
I'm trying to get kind of tomorrow.
Okay. But anyway, we can start. Yes, we can start from a clean slate and we can build anything. And here's what I think, that when we return to the child, that innocence, that not knowing, that not having to sell, that not having to fight, when we can get home or to homeostasis, I think anything's possible because we're back in touch with infinite possibilities. I think the universe is so wonderful. It will say, well, what do you want to create? What'd you like to do?
But also an energetic toddler with skills. As an adult, you have the 4-year-old that knows, I want the mac and cheese. And you have the toddler that is insightful, I'm going to be adventurous. But you have the adult that has practicality, has real skills. If you've ever gone camping, which is something my parents helped me to learn,
Yes.
Before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. To make that coffee on that camp stove is basic. People have so many debts and issues. I have compassion for all of them. But really, to live, it doesn't take as much as you think. If you get basic and say, what are my needs? Not what was sold to me commercially. And chop wood, carry water. Again, comfortable, clean, and healthy. Be your own Boy Scout, and you will succeed no matter what comes.
I like that.
That's really good. That's keeping it simple.
Yeah, it is.
You got to keep it simple, you know.
You know what? When COVID happened, you know,
can be creative with that too. You can have paint and dance and play guitar at the bonfire, or make shakers out of beads and have a little percussion. You can be creative. You can be colorful, but simple. Simple, healthy, comfortable, hydrated, and happy people. Kind, happy people. Good, happy campers.
That's right. You know, it goes along with that when COVID happened, you know, and everybody was just freaking out and they didn't know what to do with themselves, and they're in their homes just sweating it out and having a terrible time. Mm-hmm. And I remember what really kept me sane during all of that was just to get out where that sun is shining today, like it was yesterday, like it was, and all the air is blowing like it does every other day. Yeah. And oh my gosh, the moon came out, and oh my gosh, the birds are still out. Oh, the birds and the trees, they're still fresh, and oh my gosh, everything's normal out here. It's just not normal when I go in the house and I let my brain start running wild. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there is some wonderful constances that are always constant. And that's what keeps us sane, guys. When we get like what she said, Pixie, you get simple. And to me, during that time, that's what I chose to do. I did a lot of getting simple. Just go outside, shut off that TV, shut off that news, be where it's real. And it was real outside for me. And I felt sane when I was in the outside, being in nature and God's creation. And it's simple, like a child. Do they care about COVID? Do they care about what's going on the TV? No, but they're going to go outside. They're going to play in the sandbox. They're going to get dirty. They're going to play. You know, that's again back to the child, right? Yeah, it's the same thing, and it's just a beautiful thing. Nature, it invigorates me. It makes me come alive. I love to take walks because I'm outside, and I don't know. There's something about it. It's simple. It's beautiful. And it recharges me.
It grounds you too.
It grounds me.
It grounds you.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for me.
Well, I was going to say, you know, with regards to just life and witnesses moving on, you know, not being the victim. What happens with Watchtower is they have so much legalism. There's so many rules and regulations, excuse me, that people have to follow each and every day for the rest of their life, that it really, you know, suppresses a person's imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're a creative person, like you love music, or you like to write music, or you love poetry, or you like to write books, you know, whatever. Okay. Anything of that.
Point.
Okay. Watchtower just totally stifles that. Yeah. And I would like to just talk about what can people do once they're waking up and they're breaking free from the bonds of Watchtower, to be able to grow personally in terms of what their dreams are. God gave us all individual dreams.
I believe that.
Dreams in our hearts. Mine's always been with health. That's always been my love in life. But we all have gifts and we all have talents. Unfortunately, Watchtower suppresses all that. So, you know, it's very important for people to really realize that once they're moving out of this cult, once they're waking up, that there is a wonderful world that's out there for you to be able to see your dreams come true. You know, Watchtower keeps putting this Armageddon. Okay. And everyone's just like that carrot's dangling. Oh my God, I have to put my life on hold because the new system's coming. Well, this organization is very different from the time when I was in, because now the GB has said, well, you know, brothers and sisters, you know, Armageddon might not come in your lifetime.
Wow.
And that's the latest. So the point I would like to say is, don't be afraid of that. I mean, really do not be afraid of that, because that will absolutely paralyze you. And God did not create you. He did not create you for you to just have a miserable life. You are made in his image, and he wants you to have a beautiful, beautiful life. And you can't have a beautiful life if you're living in darkness, and you can't even enjoy your life. And that's something I'd like to say. You get out of that paradigm of Watchtower and dream. Angela wants to show you something really cute.
So, all right, this is a little sign. It says believe, if anybody
Yeah.
can't see it. It says believe. It's on Connie's little hearth in the living room.
Yeah.
But somebody made this on a what do you call that thing, Dan?
A lathe?
That lathe. And this is a gift. Somebody had a gift of being able to do this on a lathe. And now it's painted red and it sits in the living room. And, if you're into woodworking, and let's say that you think, I can't afford a lathe. Well, guess what? You maybe could. Just ask God that you want a lathe and start looking on Marketplace, or have a friend if you don't have that ability. And they have new stuff all the time. People are trying to get rid of stuff for free all the time. Here's another one. Here's a piece of pottery. This also sits on Connie's hearth. And somebody knew how to make, somebody learned how to make this. They went to a pottery class and they learned how to make this. And what a wonderful, it's a decoration now in a home. It makes people smile, makes people happy, makes people think of, I don't know, this is a grounding type of a thing, And if you want to do that, go take a pottery class.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And, even if you can only take a few, save up, a little bit of money, or just say, I will afford this. If I have to have beans for dinner every night for a week, I'm going to afford to take a pottery class.
Well, there's night classes you can take too, which is really fun, to learn that.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Pixie says you got time now.
Right.
Oh yeah, you have time.
It's
what
not
about
too late.
jewelry? Or what about jewelry?
Jewelry making.
Jewelry's really fun
Yeah,
too.
or whatever it is you want to do. It's really not too late, because this was a gift that somebody has gifted us to enjoy. There's a wonderful saying, bless our home. I love this little picture. It's got some wood behind it. It's a picture now that you buy in Hobby Lobby, but they made that and then they sold it consignment.
That came out of someone's imagination.
Right, someone's imagination.
It's really fancy lettering.
Right,
It's this real blessing. You are a blessing in this world, and that's just part of the dreams God's given you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's different than me. Mine's music. Mine's not pottery, but my son, he was big into pottery.
Yeah,
really good at it. Everybody's got something different to offer that blesses everybody else. And don't think of it as a small thing. It's not a small thing.
Right.
Whatever your gift is.
And everybody has the gifts.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody does. And we'd like to just encourage everyone tonight listening, to really take that into consideration and go for it. Absolutely go for it.
How do you like this creative thing? Isn't that pretty?
I remember when I was at JW, I did not know one person, and I mean one person, who had any kind of hobbies. None.
Wow.
Not one.
I didn't either growing up.
It was all going out in field service, going to the meetings, nothing. I mean, your life is on hold for the rest of your life.
Someone said I create jewelry.
Well, all right.
Really? That's wonderful.
That is.
Hey, all you guys on
That's
YouTube,
beautiful.
we want to say hi. We see it popping up, but it's a little bit small on the screen. But thank you guys all for tuning in tonight.
Yes, thank
We
you.
enjoy all your comments.
Yeah.
You guys are really making some great comments on here.
It's hard to read, like you said. It's real
It's a little
small.
tiny.
I want to go back and mention something Connie mentioned. I don't know if this happened exactly like this with her or Angela, but when I came out of the witnesses, there was an awakening that happened in my imagination. I started dreaming. You know what I mean?
Nice.
I mean, you know what I mean? I went to some place that encouraged you to dream and reminded me that God didn't make junk.
Right.
And that I was something wonderful and you are something wonderful.
Yeah.
But something happened when I came out. I don't know why, guys. I didn't spend too much time. I did start to talk about it in a negative way and the lady helped me, but I really ran the other direction. Something inside me said, Dan, you are more than what this religion or any religion, you're not junk. And man, I grabbed onto that. And then there was a
Because
saying.
you had never heard anyone say that to you, Dan.
And then Angela grabbed onto this saying too, that these and greater things you'll do.
Right.
And I thought, me? Yeah, me. Yeah. These and greater you'll do. And so we wanted to know where that was. So we went on the search. Where is this thing? These and greater. So we went to places that supported that. And what happened was Connie said something. Watchtower buried this in us.
Oh, yeah.
Watchtower didn't allow you to think.
Oh, yeah.
Watchtower governed. They're a governor. Do you know what a governor is? A governor is something they put on a lawnmower. So when you turn it up so fast, you can only go so fast because it has a governor. So when it starts a race, this governor kicks in and goes,
Oh.
and so they govern you. I mean, think about it. They tell you you can wear a pair of pants at 60, 70 years old. You women can wear pants now. And you men can have beards. And I mean, they govern you. That's what it means to be governed.
Yeah.
I'm going to promise you something, guys. If you're listening and you're a PMO and you're considering getting out, God has a bigger plan than you than Watchtower.
Oh, my goodness.
Watchtower's plan, you already know what that is. It's a bunch of lies. It's programming. It's you're a Watchtower slave. You're a Kingdom Hall builder.
You're a Watchtowerite.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, that is just a pile of beliefs that will crash eventually. Everyone's different. It'll come down. You'll be lied to. You won't feel the love, and it'll collapse, and you'll throw it away, and you'll go, "Oh my God!" But I'm going to promise you that God who created you had an idea in mind when He created you. Not only did He have an idea. Listen to what I'm saying. He not only made you. I say it for those people who get pissed off like when I use God, but when God created you, it says He knitted you together in the womb with His hands.
In secret.
In secret. Knows every hair on your head, knows every eyebrow. And here's the other thing. What were you made of in the womb? Who the hell knows? God stuff. Call it angel dust. We're made with God stuff in the womb. Right? So God takes this mysterious stuff, puts you together in the womb, watches you grow, you pop out into this world, you're programmed, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter the program. You're programmed, and then you've got to pull out of that. And Watchtower has a heavy hand on your programming. Watchtower, like Connie says, they crush. They tell you, okay, here's what you're going to dream, and here's what's going to be the outcome. And here's how we want you to operate. They literally operate you from, we don't admit it, but Watchtower operates millions of people from New York. I don't know if it's in New York anymore, but somewhere they do. They operate millions of people through the Watchtower, through the indoctrination tanks, Kingdom Halls. And you know what, guys? I got to tell you something. And I think all of us will agree. I never know who the hell I was before Watchtower. And you know what? I still don't know who I am. Do you know why? Because I'm God's stuff. We're made in God's image and likeness. Meditate on that some night. Sit in a room by yourself, light a candle, and just think about that. I am made in God's image and likeness. God blew His breath into my lungs, and I became a soul. I was immaculately conceived by the hand of God, and so are you. We are not junk. We don't ever have to tell us we're junk. All we got to say is, good job. And God, what did you have in mind? Now what do you have in mind? Now that I'm free from Watchtower, and I became like that little kid again. That's why I said, what is truth? What is truth? What is truth? Is there something greater than truth? And I don't know what I've seen in my life. I don't have to be right anymore. I don't have to have everybody's answer. I can't. I had to go down my journey, my prodigal son journey. My journey is different than Connie's, different than Angela's. We all went down these different roads. You have the right to do that. And nobody should interfere. Like Connie said, the father didn't chase after. The father wasn't codependent. The father didn't have to fix the son, right?
No.
He said, life will teach you. Life will be the teacher, which leads me to another very controversial point. It might be too controversial to say.
I just wanted to say a couple things there, Dan, that you're saying. Let's back up a little bit. I was going to say, when that woman said to you that, you have talents and gifts, right? Because you were born and raised at JW and you were in for 40 years. What's interesting about that, it's like God says, life and death in the power of the tongue, and how powerful that is. And Rich, I'm sorry, I'm saying Rich, Dan, you had never heard that. That was the first time that someone ever said that to you.
Yeah.
Because you will never hear that in Watchtower. Watchtower will never build people up
No.
for their full potential in life.
Oh, that's interesting.
With all their gifts and talents.
That's right.
They suppress it. Oh, you can't go to college. You can't do
That's
this.
pride.
You got to give up a scholarship and you got to pioneer and, you know, all this, right? So, or go where the need is greater and, you know, sell your home and all that sort of stuff. So people's, you know, dreams are totally suppressed.
Exactly.
And so when that lady, I guess her name was Marsha, had said that to you, it just opened up a whole new
Yes, a new world,
for
new
you.
world.
And that's what we're trying to do on the show here tonight, because if you're a JW or you've been in for a real long time, you will never hear this. And what's really, really sad is the JWs are so burnt out. They're so exhausted. When you look at them, you can read their nonverbal communication. They are so exhausted of doing the same thing over and over and over. And they're just very unhappy people.
It's one of the signs of a cult.
Sure.
That they do that, guys.
Yeah.
You know, that they make sure that you're exhausted.
Yeah.
So they do it by just keeping you busy every day. So you don't have time to think
Right.
or process or I don't know,
Or research.
talk to God.
You know, check out the religion.
No,
nothing.
Just go.
That's
do,
done intentionally.
It's one of the cult tactics to get
Sure
you
it is.
obedient and under their control.
Right.
And it's horrible.
When-
It's wrong.
When we were in, we had 5 meetings a week.
Oh, yeah.
Now they've cut it back. And the requirement for going out in service was 10 hours a month. And then you had pioneering and, you know, they had their requirements, but it's all changed, but still, you know, it's like that little mouse that's on the treadmill. And, you know, people are seeing all these changes going on in the organization. And hopefully they're waking up thinking, what? You mean now I might not even see the new system after all these
Can you
years?
imagine?
No, I can't.
I can't.
So
Oh,
we're
man.
trying to encourage people to, you know, those dreams that you've always had, maybe
They're
it's your
still
own
there.
business, they're still there. They're just tucked away in your heart. And you know what? Nobody can do that for you except yourself.
And who are you going to obey, right? Your heart, which is God is in your heart. Or are you going to obey men that are corrupt and trying to get you to do not what's natural for you? What's natural for you is what God gave you to do on
Right?
this
His
earth.
gifts
And
to
are you
you.
going to obey man
Right,
or God?
right.
I just want to say.
Well, and like you've always said, Dan, right? What's that scripture you've always brought out? Don't serve nobles.
Oh,
What's
Oh,
that scripture?
don't put your trust in
In
nobles,
nobles.
nor the sons of earthly men who
Right.
know salvation belongs. We were made by, we were programmed by men. I mean,
Yeah.
really, Watchtower's a bunch of men.
It's
Yeah,
a
you know.
corporation.
That's right.
And they're making, you know, billions of dollars at our expense with all our donations and everybody, you know, working for Watchtower as free labor and so forth. And yet all their needs and all their dreams are being met, right? I mean, they're
Right.
happy with all the power. They're happy with all the money. They're happy with all the accolades and living up there in Warwick and, you know, all their needs being
Until
met.
they get laid off, until the
But I meant-
rug's pulled out from under
I
them.
meant the governing body members.
Yeah.
You know?
And I want to say
Oh,
something
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Because you guys, I was thinking about it before. We were talking about this yesterday. Well, the kingdom, all the guys in the governing body,
Mhm.
they've had dreams.
Yep.
And they have seen to those dreams,
Mhm.
guys. They're building this over here in Australia. They're building this over here. And they built the new thing in Wallkill. You know, they're always dreaming of something else they're going to do, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But nobody else is allowed to.
Right.
It's like the
Right.
you know, it's going to be over tomorrow. But yet they have been dreaming and
Right.
planning with planners and planning meetings
Right.
and the zoning and building and planning department days on end, working to buy land, all these dreams. You know, you guys, do you see the bullshit?
Yeah.
Do you see the lies?
And why would they do that
Hypocrisy,
if the
yeah.
system was coming to an end?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Why would you do that if the
Right.
system is coming to an
That's
end?
it. That makes sense to me.
So, you know, you're the only one that can see your dreams come true. And let me tell you, it's a wonderful world. You know, I mean, I think it
It
would be
is.
very, very sad to be on your deathbed. I am serious about this. To be on your deathbed and you're lying there and you're thinking, you know, I didn't see any of my dreams come true because I was involved with the witnesses my whole life. and I saw a lot of hypocrisy, but I looked the other way. I saw the lack of love and even, meanness and cruelty. I looked the other way. I raised my children in this organization, and, my family's divided for whatever reason. I have family members that are not witnesses, and yet they're lovely people, but I look the other way because they're all worldly. And you're lying there on your deathbed thinking, what in the heck did I do with my life? And now it's coming to the very end, and I'm not really happy. I'll tell you, can I just tell you a story?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. It just came into my mind.
Yeah.
My next door neighbor, Mary Ann, when I lived in California, was an ICU nurse. And she lived up in a community called Forest Hill, not very far from Auburn, about 17, 20 miles. And it's a forest. It's like Lake Tahoe. And I saw one Kingdom Hall up there, but apparently I was told there were two. Okay. Anyway, wow. So she was home and, got a knock on the door, and it happened to be this gentleman. I don't know what his name was. This is a very true story. And anyway, he knocked on her door and she opened up the door. And Marianne was Catholic at the time, but she was very open to people. She just was not, she knew about the blood issue. She was an ICU nurse. Okay. So she was not prejudiced or anything. So he's talking to her and, she's listening for a while. And after a period of time, she said, well, I'm going to close the door now. Thank you so very much. He put his foot in her door.
Oh my gosh.
She said, sir, I'm closing the door. Remove your foot out of my door.
Oh my gosh.
So she closed the door. She never forgot him because Marianne's from New York and she got the New York accent, right? Mm-hmm. So she's at work at the hospital in town. And all of a sudden, this gentleman who happened to be an elder, and Marianne always wore her cross. Okay. She always loved Jesus. And anyway, so she's in ICU, and this gentleman who was an elder came he was chronically ill. He was dying. And so his wife would come visit, and Marianne says it was quite frequent that patients would want to talk to her about God because she's dealing with life and death every single day. It's intensive care. People either pull through and they leave intensive care unit or they die. So anyway, it wasn't unusual for people to ask to talk to her about God. Excuse me, I'm a little froggy. So anyway, when the wife had left, this elder looked at Marianne and he wanted to talk to her about God. Oh. Okay, now he had been a witness for a long time. He had been an elder for a long time. Okay, and he said, oh, I see that you have a cross. And he said, well, you're a Christian. She said, oh, yes, I am. So they started talking about God and just basically the Bible, just, overview, just briefly. And anyway, this is the bottom line. He said to Marianne, he said, I would really like to know how I can, he said, I've been one of Jehovah's Witnesses for many years, an elder for many, many years. And he said, I don't really believe it. I don't. And he says, I'd really like to know, how can I have a relationship with Jesus Christ? How do I do that? Because I'm on my deathbed right now and I know it. And she basically said, well, you have to, first of all, repent of all your sins and then acknowledge Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And she said, if you'd like, I will pray for you. Would you like that? He said, sure, I'd really like that. Wow. And Marianne prayed for him. Excuse me. And then shortly thereafter, he did pass away. And she told me that. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, Mayor, he would have never said that to you with his wife or any other witnesses in the room. No. He had to make sure they were out of the room so he could talk to you privately. Man. She says, yeah. Wow. So then when she met me, then she got to really understand how controlling the witnesses are. Oh. But the point is, he didn't believe it.
No.
And
he must have reached out for that love.
He did. He reached out for, and he saw the love from her.
Yep.
And he thought, wow, now this is a real Christian because she's so, that's why sometimes you really don't have to say anything. Right. It's just the actions that show who you really are.
You're right, Connie.
And he was an elder, and I'll never forget that. I never had a chance to share that on the show tonight, but
that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
There's another story along the same line. This man, he was married to a woman that he hated his whole life. So it'd be
Wow.
like called comparable to hated the witnesses your whole life, okay?
Yeah.
Because you secretly resent it and you don't like it.
Mm.
You're just doing it because you don't know what else to do and you don't want to lose your family. Just say that, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So he hates his wife his whole
Wow.
life,
Wow.
and now he's on his deathbed. She's right in front of him,
Oh,
and
wow.
watching him dying. And he says, he looked up at his wife and he says, "What if my whole life has been a lie?"
Mm.
And he died
Wow.
just like that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to say, along with what Angela and Connie said,
Wow.
I've actually witnessed 2 witnesses die,
Mm-hmm.
and they were older,
Mhm.
and they said the society lied to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a devout witness,
Yeah.
and it was a guy down in Colorado Springs named Art
Okay.
Epperson, and I was looking down at him. He was so angry,
Yeah.
and he says, "They lied to us. They lied to us." And then my
Wow.
grandfather said the same thing when he died. He looked up at his kids and he said, "Watchtower lied," and they were in denial, of course.
Mhm.
So they said, Grandpa just had a nervous breakdown.
Mm.
No, Grandpa woke up on his
Yeah.
deathbed, and
Right.
I'm going to tell you guys something.
Right.
There's a saying in the world. It's a worldly saying,
Yeah.
and I forget who said it.
Yeah.
But me and Angela, you guys have probably heard it. But it said, "Don't die with your music inside you."
Oh.
What music?
Wow.
What music is that? There's
Wow,
a melody. Being you were born in God's image,
Mm.
you are an expression unique of divinity.
Wow.
And God wants to shine through, speak through, play a note through you,
Oh, I love
unlike
that.
anybody else.
Right.
Not
Dan?
better, not worse. But could you imagine?
Mm.
You were a dud. You came out and you were angry, frustrated, scared your whole life, and then you're dying, you're mad with God, and God goes, "Oh, I didn't get to play that melody
Aw.
that I created him to be in my image and likeness, this ray of light."
Well, that's
that
why
the
we're
world-
made lightness in the world. We're light to the
The
world,
world
Dan.
needs our light.
Somebody's trying to say
Go
something.
ahead.
Yeah, we're light to the world.
Yes.
That's God's light.
Amen. Who's
Yeah.
trying to say something there? Go
I
ahead.
think they're just coughing or
Oh,
something.
But just think about that. We all need to allow that light to shine through. We're all created to hold light. We are all created to shine the light. But
Hide it under a bushel.
Oh.
No, I'm going
And-
to
and-
let it shine.
Well, and
Go
the
ahead.
thing is, Dan, I would just like to say is I learned this from a doctor, which was very, very interesting. Because there's people that are on here and they're so angry with Watchtower, so they hate God. I was one of them. Okay, so I totally get that. But the thing is, they're atheists and they're so wounded, they're so spiritually
Yeah.
abused from this organization. So the point I'd like to make is, when you have like one of my favorite, I should say, painters is Thomas Kincaid,
Oh,
the
love
painter
him.
of light.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
gosh, I love his stuff.
that beautiful?
Amazing.
And he didn't live very far from Auburn, California. He lived in a town called Placerville, which was on Highway 50. I was on Highway 80. It was like literally an hour away if you went through the canyon. But his work is just beautiful. He's known as the painter of
It's his
light.
gift, isn't it?
That was his gift. So,
Yeah.
when you have painters, right? Artists, for example, they do a beautiful piece of work, whatever their talent is, landscape or, Bob Ross or any of them. And they always write their signature down at the bottom as, this, I was the artist who created this painting. Well, what's interesting is for those who are atheists or agnostics and thinking, well, there is no God and I have no connection with God. He never created me. This is all a bunch of lies. I learned this from a doctor. Is inside, we have DNA and it looks like this, it's like that, right?
Yes.
It's deoxyribonucleic acid. It's our DNA. All of us have that. And in that DNA, and this is a true story,
It's true.
is God's signature, YHWH.
Tetragrammaton is in your blood.
In every single human being. We are
Wow.
made in God's image.
Wow.
That doesn't prove it. I don't know what else
That's
would.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible. So can I share my bird story with you?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a story I heard years ago. I think it might have been Dyer.
Okay.
Talked about the birds.
Joe Dyer?
No, it was
Oh,
Wayne
somebody
Dyer.
else.
But it's
Wayne
it's a
Dyer.
great story for what we got to go through. I hope you remember it because there is a death that we have to go through. And if we're going to have new understanding, then unfortunately something else has to die. right?
Old
Something has to be
ideas.
died. Yeah,
Almost
old
like a
Programming.
caterpillar turns into
Yeah,
a butterfly.
yes,
Sam?
yes. So I
Uh-huh.
wanted to tell you this story. I love this story because it changed my life when I first heard it. Angela's heard it too.
Yeah.
But basically, a guy went over to Africa, okay, and he got one of those talking birds,
Oh yeah.
and he brought it back home and he
love
put
them.
it in a cage,
Yeah.
and he taught it to talk, and big cage, huge cage,
Mm.
and he gave it honey, water, and seeds every day. And so in his mind, he thought the bird was happy, right?
Mm.
He had this big place, but he took him away from his family out of a tree of birds
Right.
over in Africa.
Yeah.
So the guy says, I'm going to Africa. Is there anything you want me to tell your bird friends when I get back in Africa?
Mm-hmm.
And the bird said, yes, tell them I like my cage and I like
Aw.
my honey seeds and life is wonderful.
Oh.
And so he goes back over to Africa, this man, okay? You hear this story. This is going to change everything.
Mm.
He goes back to Africa and he looks up in the tree with all the birds, the talking birds, and he goes, hey, Sammy has something he wants to say to you. And he said, he told me to tell you that he loves his cage and he loves his honey seeds and life is great. The minute he said that, a bird literally fell off the limb, crashed to the ground and died.
Mm.
And he goes, what the heck was that? Right, Angela?
Yeah,
Something like
that's
that.
right.
Mm.
So he goes, what the heck was that?
Mm.
And he's like, oh, geez, I probably shouldn't have said nothing. So he went back home
Mm.
and he told his bird in the cage, he said, I went over to Africa and I did what you said. I looked up in the tree and I told the bird, you had this wonderful cage and life was good. And I've given you honey seeds and water. And he died. The minute he spoke those words, his bird fell off the cage and died.
Oh.
And so he goes, oh my God. So he opens up the cage and he said his few last things to his bird and he decided, he just throws him in the garbage can, right? Well, when he threw him in the garbage can, the bird flew up to the lines and landed on the line. And he goes, what the hell's going on here?
Mm.
And the bird said, when you went to Africa, the birds in the tree gave me a powerful message. And the message was, you got to die while you're alive to get out of your cage.
Mm.
Your mental cage. Watchtower has you in a mental cage sewn in by positionalities and fear.
Yeah.
He said, in order to get out of that, you literally have to die. That infrastructure has to collapse or you won't get out of the cage. You have to die while you're alive. That's what all that born again and all that is about.
Mm.
You have to die so that something else can be birthed. And really it's greater understanding and greater knowing and greater. And so that story changed my life because I had to die. I did. I tell people,
It's
oh my God, transformation.
That's what it is, Dan.
This is huge, guys. And I want to say it again.
Yeah.
We don't just walk away from Watchtower.
Right.
We got work to do, but we also have a clean slate. We have, like Angela said, those beautiful baby eyes again. We have those bright eyes. Like Connie said, hope comes in again. Joy comes in again. What do I want to do? What do I want to do now?
Love, joy,
anything
peace,
is possible,
all those
guys.
Beautiful qualities.
With that baby's mind, with that innocence, with that humility
and curiosity.
Curiosity.
Right? To
Guys,
grow,
curiosity.
to grow as a person.
That's right. Can I say something?
Anything's possible, guys.
Okay, so I just wanted to, those persons who are saying to us right now,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but how? Yeah, but how? Okay,
Right.
that sounds all beautiful and so wonderful, Dan.
Here's the how.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
got a how. We used to look at fashion magazines and they'd have a makeover. And they would take a plain girl and they'd put all that paint on her face. And I used to wear a lot of paint. Wash your face. Get yourself a pair of cheap slippers or some socks. Because your feet probably hurt from all those years in service and all those years in those corporate clothes. Relax, breathe, and learn to be you again.
Amen, amen,
I
Pixie.
love it.
I just want to say though, just out of practicality, okay? I'm always practical.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, but so
It's good.
for me, okay, I wasn't born a Jehovah's Witness. I was born in Worldwide Church of God.
Right.
So one of the big, huge difficulties for me to let go of, which was very huge for me, and Dan can attest, was to let go of the keeping of the Sabbath day. Because just like you guys had that, everything just to do with Jehovah's name and knowing Jehovah's name and other things that you guys
No
about the
birthdays,
blood
no
and-
Christmas,
but more
no blood.
but
all
the
that.
blood was a big deal,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so was the name Jehovah for
Oh,
so
yeah.
many people. And so
Oh,
you
yeah.
get out of there and you're fearful of doing so many different things or thinking a different way, or it's so fearful. I was so fearful
Yeah.
of not keeping the Sabbath day correctly. And so much so that I've been out for a while and I meet Dan and I'm just terrified to do anything wrong on the Sabbath. So he takes me for a drive in the mountains on Saturday. And I'm just like terrified because I'm playing, I'm goofing around on God's Sabbath day. I'm not keeping it holy, right? And it just tore me up. And I knew the real deal was that I am here. I'm saved by grace.
Right.
By grace you're saved through faith, and this not of yourselves. That's the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So I knew this.
Right.
It was ingrained in me. I knew the scripture, but in this time period, I was terrified of God and terrified to do anything wrong that would displease God. And it was literally making me sick.
Yeah.
So the only thing that will work and what did work was to keep on doing the best I could to tell God about it and ask him to please relieve me of this mega
Like a burden,
massive
huh?
brain
huge.
distress that's unbelievable. It made me sweat.
Yeah.
And there was no other way around it, I feel, guys, but to cry out to God. And every time you have the fear, remind yourself that God doesn't want me to have fear.
No.
Let go of the fear.
Right.
I renounce fear.
Right.
And I ask you, Lord God, please help me, Lord. And slowly but surely, these different things that I feared, that wasn't the only one, but that was one of the big ones for me.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely,
fear's a big
God worked it all out. And I can tell you honestly that I do not fear that anymore.
Yeah.
And the other things that I feared, I do not fear anymore. Do I have all my fears gone? No. But I do not have certain fears that I had before at all. But it does take some work. And I feel like that work is many things. It could be a book. It could be a movie. It could be, God will use these different ways to get you free. You don't know what they are. He's subtle about it. God is subtle, but it works. He'll work with you. Just keep on reminding yourself, God is working with me on this. We're working on it. I got to let go. Oh, that's right. I don't fear anymore. I renounce fear. I do not believe in fear. I do not have to have fear. You just keep on working it and it will go. It will go. Dan was finally free from the fear of the name Jehovah, that you've got to know the name. You got free from that and other things.
Or Armageddon too, right?
Yeah,
Jan?
different fears.
Yeah.
But it is overcomable. You will not always tremble in fear and sweat and every day of your life. You won't, not forever.
Dan, could I add something in the conversation briefly?
I'm scared. It's King of Ducks.
Scared? Yeah, it's King of Ducks. You don't have to be scared of me. I did write a poem about you, but I'm not going to read it tonight. Okay?
I want to hear a poem soon.
Gloria is your wife's name, right? I'm not
Angela.
forgetting it, am I?
Thank you.
Okay. I was just going to say briefly, the Christian spirit I perceive is actually a spirit of freedom. If we sense intolerance and an oppressive spirit, that is not where Christ is. He's not oppressive. And unfortunately, the Kingdom Hall for so many decades became so oppressive. You could feel the atmosphere when you entered there. I don't know if you agree with me or not, Dan, but
100%.
that's all I had to say.
I agree 100%. I would add to it. You've got to throw a lot of churches in with Jehovah's Witnesses as well. I'm sorry. I kind of,
It's not about religion.
Yeah,
It's
you're
about
right.
religion.
You're correct. I'm not talking about freedom to commit sins. There is sin. I'm talking about you've got, like you said, that childlike spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
You feel actually empowered.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I mean, look at the poems that come out of you. Where are they coming from? You know what I mean?
Nice.
I mean, they're just, they just flow through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
And that's what
How
happened.
about
Where do the
how
books
about
come from that
60
we
years
write?
of pain?
What's that?
How about 60 years of pain? on
Wow.
both sides of the aisle. That's where they come from.
You're
And I
right.
have to pay for every word I think of, dude.
You know something, King of Dots?
You know, what can I say? That's how life is. You don't get something for nothing.
You're right, King Dotson. Most of our creativity, if you go to these other countries where there's been suppression
Yeah.
and hardship, some of the most beautiful paintings and things come out, and music
Oh yeah.
come out of pain,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Musicians. Look
Yes.
at Eric Clapton, that song, Tears of, what's about his little boy that passed away? Tears of Heaven.
Yes.
That's
But
about his little boy.
I
losing
agree
his
with
son.
everybody on here tonight. It's simple. It's a simple walk. If you look in the Bible, even it says, what is God asking from you? But simply walk with me. Walk with
simply
truth.
with your God.
Be loving. Be kind. Be generous.
right.
You know, and everything will work. I
Religion
think we
makes
make
it complicated,
Religion makes
Dan.
it
Sure
complicated.
it does. Yeah.
I like all of this practicality. I love
Mm.
simplicity. I love, you know, it's almost like I don't even hear anybody arguing on the show anymore. It's like we're tired of fighting each other. We fought for 40 years, every religion, every ideology, everything. And I don't know. I just think love is greater than truth, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And I believe that's the returning home to that childlike state that King of Dots mentioned, that childlike state of awe. Connie says, what was the word you said a minute ago?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
That is what drove me.
Yeah.
Curiosity. Well, what the hell can I be? You know,
Right.
I could really write a book.
Yeah.
You know, one time I got to tell you, I went through this little healing seminar thing, and they were pretending like they had a birth canal. They made a birth canal of people. There were people over here and people over here, and they put their hands together, right? And they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, you know, I want to be an author, and I want to do this, and I just came out of the witnesses, right?
Yeah.
My imaginals, like Connie said, just woke up, and I started dreaming again. And so they had this birth canal of about probably 50 people were standing side by side like this. And I walked through it. And I told them all these things I wanted to be, right?
Before I got in there.
Before I got in it. So all of a sudden I started walking through under these hands, you know, like this. And everyone goes, you're going to be an author. Oh my God, he's going to be wonderful. We can't wait for him to get here. Not he's a piece of shit. Not he's garbage. Not he's, you know, all that.
Right.
It was, oh my God, what's he going to be? What is he going to be, an architect? You know, and all of them whispered as I went through this tunnel. And then when I came back, they had it was like a fake birthday cake. And they go, oh, we're celebrating you. Oh my, why would they celebrate me? We're told not to celebrate us. God made me. Why wouldn't you celebrate me?
Right.
Why wouldn't we celebrate you?
God celebrates us.
Yeah, God made us. We're a celebration. So here I'm coming through, and there's this big, I'm bawling my eyes out, by the way. I'm going through this tunnel, and everybody's with, you're going to write a book. You're going to do this.
You're going to be successful.
You're going to be successful. You're going to do, you're amazing. We love you. And that was the thing they said at the end. There was a guy and a gal that was like a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
And they said, we love you.
Oh.
We love you.
Oh,
we
Dan.
love you. And I'm telling you, my whole body healed. My whole body healed. And I never forget that time of that whispering that somebody wanted me here, that somebody believed in me here, that somebody was crying for me to be here. You know what I mean?
Looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, what a difference from Watchtower.
Yeah.
Oh my God, guys, there's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of healing and stuff out there. But like Connie said in the beginning, guys, we got to say yes. We got to say, I want to be healed.
I want to be healed.
I want to be whole. I want to be sane again. I want to move into homeostasis. I want God to live through me so I can serve my fellow men in a way that divinity had in mind when it created me. Guys.
Got to heal those spiritual wounds.
Got to
Watchtower is a spiritual abuse place.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what it is. It's spiritual. It's not, has nothing to do with God, has nothing to do with Jesus, has nothing to do with his word. It's spiritual abuse.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, there's no joy in there. There's no hope in there. Like I said,
Well, look at the
Watchtower
fruit,
creates
right?
the problem and gives you the solution. And the only solution is to wait. But that's not even what Jesus said. I mean, Jesus said, what? I came so you could do what? Have life,
And
this
have it-
life,
Right. Have it more abundantly.
and have it more abundantly.
And you don't have that with Watchtower. There's a high rate of suicides. That's why it's so demonic and it's so dark. It
Right.
has nothing to do with God and his Holy Spirit and his life.
And not only that, though, you guys, Watchtower, of course, is not the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But
Fourteen
they don't
six.
teach that.
No, they don't.
No.
No, they were shutting down Jesus for a long, long time, and even now they're not too happy with it. They're sort of
They don't know what to do with them.
Well, what was it? Samuel Hurd came on there talking about that, but they're just doing that because they're hemorrhaging. They're losing so many members.
And they're saying that I am the way. The governing body saying I am the way, the truth, and the
Right,
light.
right.
That is just crap.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, they've been.
There, yeah.
Well, like Connie said earlier, you can see the fruit of it.
He's saying
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
We
What?
should close up.
What'd
Yeah,
you
the
say?
governing body is saying that they are the way, the truth, and the life. That's not right.
No,
They can't say that. Only Jesus can say that.
that's
That's
right.
right.
That's idol worship.
It's funny how they say,
But this is
you
idol
know,
worship.
don't put your trust in nobles nor the sons of earthling men,
Mhm.
when that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Sons of earthling men whom no salvation belongs. It's so interesting.
I laugh at that because every time they say that, there was one time they were talking about the news anchors and stuff, and they said, "You trust the news, you know, and stuff." And I think, wait a minute. Okay, the news anchors are human beings. Watchtower people are human beings.
Yeah.
So what makes them any different up at the top just because they're a governing body? What makes you think that you can really trust them? They say they don't. They even say they don't lie. They don't deceive. So they lie all the time. I mean, these people, and I hate to say it, they just lie constantly. And to believe them, well, if you can believe them, you can believe the news people because, you know, hey, they're human too.
They're narcissists.
Well-
they think they're superior over everybody.
And the other thing is, you know how we were told, I think we use that scripture more than anybody, that God is a spirit and those who worship us worship in spirit and truth. We don't worship in spirit and truth. We worship through governing body.
Oh,
You know?
yeah,
We don't sit down
totally.
and bow our head and say,
Totally.
God, what do you want me to do today?
Right.
We go to the Watchtower and
true,
say, what do you want me to do today? You know, we better ask the governing body or ask the elders, you know, if I should wear pants or a dress,
Right.
and how long that dress should be.
Or
You
can I
sisters
have a
ought to be
beard?
ashamed of yourself, by the
Well,
way.
right, because men said that I had to go to church every Saturday and make sure you don't, miss kind of a thing, right? And so instead of the Holy Spirit telling me go to the forest and enjoy it,
Yeah.
I don't go to the forest and enjoy it, even though that's the way the Holy Spirit was leading that day, me and Dan,
Yeah.
to go take a break in the beautiful nature of God and the
Oh,
beautiful mountains and see
sweet.
the aspens turning yellow.
Oh, how
And
pretty.
instead, I'm fearing the rules and regulations,
Oh, yeah.
the law, that God will be ashamed of me because I didn't keep the Sabbath day holy by going to church and whatnot.
That's
right?
all legalism.
It is, and so who was I obeying there? Really, it was the men who said,
Isn't there a place in the Bible that says something about that you shouldn't worry about days and stuff like that? I
Yes,
don't remember
it
the scripture
does.
was.
We're not to judge any man according to new moons, Sabbaths, holy days. All of that says that right in the Bible. It sure does.
Well, and Jesus, called out the Pharisees because they were all about the rules and regulations. And he said,
Yeah.
they preach something, but then they don't behave that way. So, they're very evil people. Don't
Yeah.
follow them. They're a bunch of hypocrites.
But God's not rigid, like you got to go to church
No.
every single solitary, Saturday or whatever your rest is. He maybe realizes that you need a day off. You need to go get with me in nature, and so you go take that ride, and you have guilt
Yeah. Oh,
because men did that to me.
yeah. The guilt and the
Right?
shame, honey.
Yeah.
I was
That's
going to cut the
bondage.
Bible in half and get rid of the Old Testament for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she was
What
really
she went
indoctrinated.
through.
She'd be crying in the bedroom. I'm like, we're just taking a ride today. And she
Oh.
goes, I don't know if that's what God wants to do. And I'm like, well, what does God want us to do? It was some serious
Oh.
trauma.
intense.
It was as much trauma as we had, guys.
I was afraid.
She was terrified, and
Yeah.
I felt so bad because it's an internal suffering of a mind
Terror.
control
Yeah.
Mind
and
terror.
fear from Herbert W. Armstrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, we better pay attention to Rick. Maybe there's some people that want to have some final comments. Anybody else wants to chime in? Because I don't know. Are we over
We're
time?
over. We're 15
Oh, we're
minutes
over. Rick has graced us
Yeah.
and let us just go on and on.
Yeah, in fact, Dan, take another 15 minutes. Take another 15 minutes, and let's a lot of people coming in here tonight. A lot of people coming in. Unusual activity here at the Six Screens.
That's
And as
good.
I mentioned, as it gets colder, more and more people come in. But we get a lot of people on the telephone line. A lot of people coming in through YouTube and Facebook. So it's all going good. So thank you very much. And if
Thank
someone
you, Rick.
wants to say hello, come on in right now. Say hello to Dan, Angela, and Constance.
Yeah.
They're here to talk to you. Go ahead.
Tell us if we're wrong or right or indifferent.
Be nice if it's a new person we haven't heard from. Don't be
Can you
bashful.
Can you
We'd love to say hello to you. You don't
Let me
have to
see
give your
what-
name.
YouTubers. There are a lot of
Yeah,
action on YouTube
don't
tonight.
have to
Governing
give
body
your name.
members are not inspired or infallible.
Right.
Neither am I. That's really good.
That's King of Dots there.
Oh,
Huh?
King of Dots.
Yeah, on the last
Oh,
one.
King of Dots.
Yeah.
We were under truth too. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I bought the 15th century Bible, real meaning, 2 words, not anywhere in the book. Love.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'll tell you I've never seen so many people on YouTube just writing and commenting. And
Yeah, it's
sorry
nice.
if we missed a lot of you guys, but everyone else is reading your comments who are on YouTube. As like I said, it's hard to see. Here's what I got to do: as I'm talking, these are my readers. These are where I can see it when I'm sitting back. So I'm going like this, and then I'm going like this, and then I'm picking up my notes and I'm doing this. I mean, this
Dan, you're
they
so
say that
funny.
happens when you look at women too much.
Oh, Dan's
Anyway,
a clown.
sorry.
Dan, you're such a clown. Is there
So it's
somebody else who'd like to
interesting, you guys,
chime
no
in?
matter how many changes Watchtower makes, they're cooked. They're done because
Yeah.
they can make all the so-called improvements they want, but
Yeah.
their history from years ago is on the internet, and all someone has to do is go and look, and they will see all of it laying wide open where people can see it. So yeah, they can make all these little changes all they want. Women can wear dresses and skirts. Men don't have to wear ties and jackets. Now you can toast. And probably what's coming up, who knows, probably the birthdays will come back. Probably Christmas will come back. But right down in the middle of all that, the one thing they will not change is who Jesus actually is. They will not accept that Jesus is God.
Right.
I can't get over I hate to say it, but when I watch them parade around Jesus, they parade him around like it's weird, like he's a robot. Have you ever saw
I
him?
haven't seen it.
You
did
got to
say
watch
that,
him on
Dan.
Governing Body because
Yep.
he's
Can
got
you
his
show
shirt off and he's walking like a robot.
Oh,
And then he
wow.
stops. And then it's almost like the people are worshiping him, It's a whole new way they're trying to introduce Jesus. And I'm like, that isn't the Jesus we knew when we were in there. They got the big dove flying down, and landed on him when he's baptized. And it's all in slow motion.
Oh, really?
It's all like animated in
And
slow motion.
slow.
And then Jesus turns like this, and then he turns and he's making muscles like this, and he's
Oh,
got his
brother.
chest out.
And he's got the 6-pack, and his,
Oh my.
Got a little bitty thing around him, but they're making a mockery out of him. I don't think they know what to do with him because they've always been against.
The same way. I
Yeah,
felt
but-
like Jesus and John the Baptist were gym buddies. It was
Yeah,
right.
it's a weird.
to me. And then I saw the scripture again, which I knew, but I never know where they are. So I'm writing down where they are now. And the one scripture says, if we don't have the resurrection, the physical resurrection of the Christ, then all our preaching's in vain. That's in there.
Right. Because
Yeah.
Jesus was resurrected.
They had that beautiful Watchtower cover one time where the women see Jesus resurrected, and for about 3 months, it seemed like it was, the history of the early church. The history of the resurrection of how the ancient people were. The women were there first. Well, this looks like Christianity. And then they went back to, well, he wasn't really in a bodily resurrection. Well, if he wasn't in a bodily resurrection, then all our preaching was in vain. And a lot of us did a lot of preaching.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right, Pixie. Really true.
And they also-
Watchtower wants to be so different from everyone else. They like to have their own spin. And, once you take you can see with spiritual eyes of understanding, you take off the glass,
Blinders.
the blinders. That's a word. Thank you. And you can see with spiritual eyes of understanding, you can really see how what Watchtower teaches is an absolute lie. And there is no salvation with Watchtower. There isn't.
No.
They're worshiping the governing body members, and it's nothing but idolatry. And not only that,
Yeah, they told us not to like the Beatles. They're like a bad boy band.
Yeah.
And then, you cannot deny all the pedophiles. Okay. So even if you don't believe in doctrine and all that, a lot of people don't leave because of doctrine. They believe because of the hypocrisy and the lack of love. But what about the pedophiles? Watchtower cannot suppress that. They have so many lawsuits. And who in the heck would want to be a part of an organization where you have pedophiles roaming around raping your kids?
More than normal.
And they call themselves a Christian.
In more than one country too. Let's look at
Yeah,
the numbers.
worldwide.
Good.
Well, the thing about it is, right? Why did the Catholics have that problem? Why? Because they were told they couldn't have sex with the women. They told they had to be celibate. But here they had the spirit of become fruitful and become many and fill the earth, which God put in them to be attracted to women. So they put them in these monasteries with each other, and they're horny. And so they do these freaky things. I mean, when we went through the monasteries up in Snowmass, almost 99% of them were homosexuals.
Yeah.
And I asked the guy, I said, well, who's that? Oh, that's Father so-and-so.
Yeah.
Oh, he was gay. I said, oh, really?
Yeah.
And I said, well, who was that guy? Oh, he was gay. He was Father so. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, so that's a problem up here.
Mm.
So why is there perversion in the congregation? Because it's suppression. You do not get to develop normally.
Right.
You do not get to go through adolescence.
Right.
You do not get to touch a woman's warm hand because you might have a warm feeling and your heart might flutter and you decide to give her a kiss or touch some part of her, and which is totally normal, totally adolescent, but that wasn't allowed to flourish, if you will,
Right.
normally.
Right.
So it was suppressed.
Right.
And when it was suppressed, you went into hiding, you went into porn shops, you went into behind the scene in the dark and put your quarters in and watched your movie.
Mm.
And you weren't committing adultery, right? Bill Clinton, right? You weren't committing adultery because you didn't exactly do it. And so in your own mind, you were justified in the porn shop because you didn't really commit adultery. You just watched the porn.
Mm.
But the truth is, you wouldn't be in a porn shop. You wouldn't be out there if you could touch a girl's hand, if you could kiss a girl, if you could do what was normal. But what was normal was suppressed.
Right.
And if God put that desire in me
Mm.
at 18, 19, 20, or whatever age to become fruitful and become many and fill the earth, who am I to suppress it? Who am I to crush it down? It creates a bunch of perverts. And I'm sure Jehovah's Witnesses is much worse even now than the Catholic Church, because at least the Catholic Church, from what I know, came out and
They
apologized
did.
for their people. Watchtower won't apologize.
No.
Watchtower won't
Right.
even admit there's pedophiles.
Right.
And so there's a massive amount of perversion that's in the organization that's unseen. That's why all the porn, that's why it was undeveloped humanness, just human nature
Right.
that's been squelched. And I know that might sound horrible to some
it's
Christians,
true.
like, oh my God, Dan, what are you
It's
saying?
true, Dan.
But it's true.
Well, we know this guy. I won't mention his name, but anyway, he was an elder for many years. He's out of the organization now, and Rich and I got to meet with him. It was a really nice visit. He lives in the area, some distance away, but in the area. And he was telling us that he really woke up with Watchtower. He knew all about the Australian Royal Commission. He knew everything we brought up. He said, "Oh yeah, I know that. And he was so honest. He said, "You know what?" He said, "I would even give talks at the district assemblies, right?" And he said, "The night before, I was watching porn."
Yeah.
He said, "I was watching porn the night
totally
before."
normal. Just want to say totally
and I would
normal.
go the next day giving a talk at the conventions. And he was married at the time. So even if they're married, Dan, it's not as if
No.
they're adolescents.
You're right.
There's a lot of elders, ministerial servants in the organization that are watching pornography. How do I know? Why do you think they have it in the flock book with the elders? Oh, well, no, if you're watching pornography now, child porn and all that, it's just a little slap on the wrist. It's not a big deal. Why is that? Because it's so prevalent. They'd be disfellowshipping everyone. But in the secular authorities, watching child porn, okay, that's criminal. That's one step before pedophilia.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
So
it escalates, doesn't it?
it does escalate. So that's what's going on in this organization
Well,
because of the repression, Rich.
Right. And
Dan.
I was told this when I was in there, I literally went in and told them, oh, I masturbated, right?
Mm.
And when I did, they told me you were bad and you were entertaining wrong thoughts, and we're going to give you conduct on becoming a Christian and put me on public reproof.
Yeah.
And that's what they did eventually. I went in there a couple of times, said, oh, I fell back. And anyway, what was I going to say about that?
Well, there are a lot of elders doing that. They didn't tell you that.
No, they didn't tell me that. And that kind of messed me up. And
Yeah.
eventually I just started lying,
Yeah,
I just,
right.
anyway.
What are you going to do, right? You don't want to get kicked out of your family. But,
Right.
I just for the record, I just want to say this. It's just the same old corruption in the Catholic faith. And just if I'm wrong, just somebody correct me, but this is the way I understand it. The Catholic Church wanted to have money. So what they did was they said to the guys that you're going to become celibate. You're not going to be married. You're going to take the vow of chastity, and everything that you have now belongs to us. So if any money came along, if any money from his dad who died or whatever comes along, it all goes to the church because now you've taken the vow of chastity. You own nothing. And so, I believe that's the real motivation why they said you're not going to be married, you're going to be celibate, because then they own your ass and they own all of your belongings, and anything you ever will inherit, they get it all. And so to me, that was corrupt, and that was their reason. That's my opinion. But anyway, but you know what? People went down underneath the different, monasteries and whatnot, and what they find, children who have been aborted, hundreds of them, different contractors.
With the nuns,
with the nuns.
The priests were having sex with the nuns.
So they did.
And they had them buried behind the walls.
Right. They just aborted. Some woman was in charge of aborting the babies so that the shame would be hidden.
The Alamo was supposed to have been that way, I was told.
My
the
God.
Alamo, behind the Alamo.
Let me say one more thing real quick. So I just want to say
Hey guys, don't forget how many of those popes had illegitimate children that they expected the parishioners to pay for. That was a big factor in them not having children too.
Wow.
Yes, that's a good point, Sharon. You know what? I got to say this while I remember it. But do you know what the solution was for me? The elder's solution was for me with my problem. The only one that I had out of 5 million, I was the only one who had that problem. But you know what their solution was? Get married.
What's that?
It wasn't. It wasn't fall in love with a woman. It wasn't get to know the woman. My uncle said, Dan, he's an elder. He said they all have the same movable parts. Just pick one. Disgusting. He tells me, just pick one.
That's so disgusting.
And I was so stupid at the time. I just did. 2 marriages ago.
Linda James, I wanted to push back a little bit, Dan, on what you said about the Catholic Church and the men being celibate. From what I understand, that was set up in such a way so that if they were married, their wives would have some entitlement to property they own. And so to make sure that doesn't happen, they don't get to be married. So, much like what Angela was talking about. But you also mentioned something about, I think, a certain church or something, like 99% of them were homosexual or whatever. If men within Catholic Church or any church are homosexual, what they usually do is hook up with another homosexual rather than a child.
Right, exactly.
Men that are straight, women that are straight, sometimes the nuns and the priests get together. But the realm of children is another zone. It's for the most part, it's not a homosexual zone. When you go after children, it's about power and control. It's a rape. It's you see what I'm saying?
Yes, good point.
If a person's gay and they can't find somebody, going to a child wouldn't happen unless they have that pedophile mindset, the mindset of wanting to have power and control over a child. Right. Good point.
Yep. And the point I was making too was about go ahead.
We'll finish your point, Jim.
I'm not hearing a reply, but
oh, I was just saying the point I was making too was the porn shop. I was one that hung out in one of those places. I would have never been in a porn shop if I would have unfolded normally. If I was able to hold it, I always tell a story. One day I was walking with this girl and she gave me a little kiss, and my dad came down the road literally 60 miles an hour and slid right up to my hip and threw me in the car.
And he was a witness.
Yeah, he was a witness. And that does something to you. You know what I mean? It's like you got to have an outlet somewhere, and so that's why I was saying there's just the Watchtower creates a lot of perversion, a lot of screwed up people, just because we're suppressing what God made to unfold naturally. We're suppressing. So
in the Kingdom Hall, you can't even have like if you're a sister and you're interested in a brother or vice versa, you can't even have that person sit next to you in the Kingdom Hall.
Yes,
They
I
get
know.
so anal
I got
about
counseled.
it.
I got counseled over and
Right.
over.
They don't even want that.
Especially when I wasn't baptized, they'd give a talk
Right.
and they'd say, if you're a sister and you're dating a brother, can you imagine a woman dating a brother before he's fully vested in the organization, you know, baptized and
Right.
proves himself to be a good brother and
Right.
all of this stuff. But yeah, it was just a surprise to me when I went to the monastery, because I was going out to the monastery and we did find some beautiful people. And one of the guys was gay and he did speak all over the world and he was very connected. But I was just surprised at the amount of homosexuality within the monastery, because every picture I saw in the hermitages,
Yeah.
I would ask about them because they were like a saint or they were somebody. And so that was a learning thing for me to go to the monastery and find out that that was such a thing. And I asked the main guy there, I said, is that something that goes on here? And he says, absolutely. It's pretty much 100%. So that was just an awakening for me. It wasn't bad or good. It was just what it was. But I just felt like some of that was created from that suppression.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, Rich had a friend that they were very close to. And this friend was going to go into, he was Catholic, they were both Catholic. And he said he was going to go to study to be a priest. And Rich said, are you kidding me? You know, you like women. You know how guys talk. I won't repeat it. But he says, no, you're not going to be able to survive because you like sex too much. He says, no, that's my calling. I'm going to become a priest. And Rich said, okay, I wish you the very best.
But here's the thing. What is celibate? What is celibacy? It's no sex. So either way, you know, these are priests. These guys were going in there as monks. They're not supposed to be doing that sort of thing. They're supposed to be celibate. So they're right. Am I right?
Yeah.
So it's either way. Their suppression is causing them to do what they're not supposed to be doing, unless I don't understand it right.
Well, so anyway, so this guy was there. It's supposed to be like 4 years, and after a few years, you know, he'd come to town and he'd get together with Rich and say, "Oh, let's go have a drink." Okay. And so anyway, I'm sorry Rich is not here and I could tell you, but this is the story. So he said, well, I'm not gonna finish up being a priest. And Rich said, why? You know, I think you only have like a year left. And he says, well, I'll tell you why. He said, everybody in there is gay. And he said, no. He said, yeah, I'm telling you, Rich, everybody, like it was like 90%, 10% were not. And Rich said to him, you mean 10% are not gay and 10% are gay, excuse me, and 90% are straight. He says, no, I'm telling you, in the monastery, 90% are gay men and 10% are straight. He says, I have to get up like at 3 or 4 in the morning so I can take a shower and there aren't other men around me. And the guy got out of the monastery. And I remember asking Marianne. Marianne went to parochial school just like Rich did. She says, oh yeah, that's a given.
Well, you know, when I worked
It's
in the
very
jail,
common.
just real quick, when I worked in the jail, it was a saying that was just rampant throughout.
Mhm.
That was, well, gay for this day. Well, gay for this day, because you know they can't get what they want. They can't even be with their husbands, so they just do the gay thing for this day, and then when they get out, they're done. I mean, it's just kind of
Whether it's men or women, you're saying?
Yeah.
And I just want to say this too, guys. I was healed at that monastery, and I spent a lot of time at that monastery.
Love it.
And I used to sit in the silence with those brothers, and a lot of their hearts were so pure. And the guy who actually gave me a tape that healed me was gay. I found out later, but he handed me this tape. It was actually handed from him. He was 90 years old, and he handed it to another lady and handed it to me. And it basically was a talk he was giving about sexual desire.
Yeah.
And he said, could you imagine being in an 18 or 20-year-old body and being told that you were bad because you had this desire? He said that God put into you. He said that you'd be a house divided within yourself.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God. He said, God made you. This is what he said. God made you to become fruitful and become many and fill the earth.
Yeah.
God put that desire in you. And you know what? I was healed. And I looked up that brother. That's how I found that monastery, me and Angela.
Wow.
I said, I'm going to find that guy. He was 90 years old. And I said,
He was 90?
yeah, his name was Father Keating. And I said, Father Keating, that tape that you did, I said, it healed me. I said, to hear that desire, that sexual desire that starts to unfold at a certain age, that suppression of it, would be, what did I call it? That I wouldn't unfold naturally. I said, when you said that, like, how dare a church or something just suppress that? I was healed.
Took
I
away
was
shame.
healed. And so
Yeah,
I said,
from that
thank
shame.
you. And he says, I'm glad it helped. He goes, pass on that. If it helped you and you feel like it did, pass it on to somebody else.
else.
But
Yeah.
I was healed
Wow,
by a
Jen.
gay monk. And I told this on a television show back, it was on 3ABN. It was on 3ABN back east, me and Angela. And I said I was healed. I don't know if I said gay monk, but it was a monk in a monastery who had a tape on sexual desire.
Yeah.
And they turned off the cameras. They go, you can't say that. This is a church. And I said, that's what happened. And I said, the very first person I talked to about my sexual desire was a woman. They turned off the camera. You can't talk to women. And I said, the only reason that I talk to women is because you men are a bunch of cowards. You priests are a bunch of cowards.
Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. If you do not know your PIN, please enter pound or hash.
Okay.
Anyway, Rick, we're wrapped up, I think. If anybody wants to say anything.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Dan.
That's
Shut up, Dan.
You might have stepped out. Are you there, Rick?
Did you pass
Right here. Yes, I am. No, that was just what happens. Our telephone line once in a while goes a little stray, and there's a person that comes on. Of course, it's a recorded person, but sometimes it goes a little nutty. So sorry for that coming through. But
I said I was
anyways,
sorry, Rick, and it said thank you.
I heard that.
I love it. My
Yeah, I
God,
heard that.
airwaves
Yeah,
are talking to me.
The timing was good. Yeah, it really was. Well, fine. I mean, my goodness, you guys got a lot of people coming in tonight. A lot of people that have been tuning in and listening to your program tonight. And really, I really appreciate you coming in, Dan and Angela and Connie. And I want to say that I believe Dick's even listening. And Dick, we love you. I get a lot of people that saying that they miss
Nice.
you.
Oh.
And they're really looking forward to Dick coming back and getting better and being with us here at the Six Screens. So,
Yeah.
Dick, you got a lot of fans out there. A lot of people love you, buddy. And we're all rooting for you and
Yes.
wishing you get really good here very soon. Thank you.
Here,
Yes.
real quick. We want to
Yeah.
see your face.
Thanks for having us all on, Rick. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We love you, Rich.
Want to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to try to get back in here. Right? When you hit the wrong button sometimes, crazy things happen. But, boy, I'll tell you. Let's see. Name studio. Just you might have to give me a couple of minutes here to
That's all right.
revamp
doing
this
the-
thing up.
Are you doing
Okay.
the world news tonight, Rick?
I'm doing the world news. Yeah, coming right next. I got some interesting things to talk about tonight. Really, yeah.
Okay.
So looking forward to it. So thank you, Dan, Angela, Constance. Keep waving that flag of victory. Don't you ever give in, up, or out. We love you. Thank you.
Thank
Love
you.
you too. Love all you
Thank
guys
you,
out there.
everybody.
YouTube, Facebook,
Thank you, everyone.
radio. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone, for your prayers for Rich,
Comments,
too.
Rich.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dixie.
Yeah, I thank everyone
Thank
for
you.
all their prayers for Rich, too.
Yes.
That
Yes,
means a lot. I
yes.
wanted to be sure and say that.
Yes.
Yes.
Just keep them coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Great
Thank
show. Thank you
you.
for
Thank you, Sharon.
participating.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Love all you
everybody.
guys on YouTube too. I love all the comments and thank everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, folks. Don't hold on one second. We get. Okay, we're gonna end. I'm gonna end this right here.
Prayers for Rich. How sweet. Okay.